But no, it's okay. No, it's no.
I really appreciate it.
What's going on?
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
How are you?
Yes, sir.
For us?
Hey, no, man.
I knew it wasn't talking to me.
The best part is you find a way to just
Hey,
take your boss.
sir. So good to see you. Sorry to interrupt you guys.
I'm just on.
Thank you.
I got it too. And then 12 years ago. No, well, I did, because I got served.
Thank you. Thank you.
You too.
Oh, great. We're talking. Everyone's okay with it. We'll lose it for
Evening, Bill.
Hey, Bernie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Hi, Ben.
How you doing, sir?
Time.
I think you have your answer. You have your answer, though.
Yeah.
Hi, Mike.
Commissioner Barnes, how are you doing?
All I can see is your tie, your head. There you go.
Commissioner Barnes, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Mike. You?
Very good. Glad to see you are able to attend today.
Yeah. Well, I'll be home in a couple of days. Back to normal.
If anything you need, feel free to make call.
How you doing, Commissioner?
Except regarding city business.
Yeah. Commissioner. Commissioner.
Keep going, guys. Keep going. Hello.
Commissioner Barnes, can you hear me?
The cameras on the Shanghai fire capturing for the first time the Mako shark. This amazing unprecedented is a complete bipartisan consensus designed to impact
Right, Chair.
Recording in progress.
suggested drawings of two girls are considered duties time for the army.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call to order the regular city commission meeting for August 2nd, 2022. Please have roll call.
Commissioner Drosky,
Here.
Commissioner Parnas, Commissioner Parnas,
Here,
Commissioner Preston,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hudak,
Here.
and Mayor Vance.
Here. Could you please have everyone stand for a moment of silence and our pledge of allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could have acknowledgement of our city board meeting minutes for our planning and zoning board for April 7th, 2022, our code compliance meeting minutes for May 25th and June 14th, 2022, and our Hillsborough Inlet District meeting minutes for June 20th, 2022.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Preston, second by Vice Mayor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approval of our agenda tonight for August 2nd, 2022, with one request is that we can move up the public to be heard. If we can move that up before our public hearings, we have, we're taking into consideration some health issues for some of our public members.
Motion to approve.
second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
aye,
Those opposed? Okay, Madam Clerk.
For members of the public wishing to provide comments during tonight's meeting, 3 minutes will be provided. However, 1 additional minute can be granted from the advance. Anyone connected online using video must cover the mouse at the bottom of the screen and click the participants tab. On the right, with raised hand, you'll be recognized by your profile name and your audio will be unmuted. Those participating via mobile or landline, dial *9 to raise your hand. You'll be recognized by the last 3 digits of your number, dial *6 if necessary to unmute. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Our first item that we have is a presentation by our Broward County property appraiser, Mr. Marty Carroll.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Commission. I can't tell you, hello, everybody. Hey, how's it going? I'm good. I can't tell you all how much I appreciate you having me today. I've been really looking forward to this. I was telling Ben and others that, I've lived in Broward County my entire life, and I lived in a few places. I was born in Plantation General Hospital, lived in Pembroke Pines, lived in the town of Davie, lived in Plantation out with my family, but there's one place for the last 40 years that I have lived the first week of every single August, that is Deerfield Beach. My entire family comes from all over the country. We have a timeshare here in Deerfield Beach, and we kind of take it over for about a week, and I love it. I've always wanted to come and speak to y'all while we were here, and I can definitely tell you, as a one-week resident, you all do a fabulous job.
Your suntan gives you away, by the way.
It does. It's pretty awesome. And also, I want to thank you all very much for your service. The one thing I can definitely say, I'm very fortunate to represent 31 cities in Broward County, and I love all of our 31 cities equally. But I can definitely tell you that I've never met a resident of Deerfield Beach that dislikes living in Deerfield Beach. And I think so much of that is because of the great service that you all provide to the people of Deerfield Beach every single day. And I promise I won't go on for too long, but I was hoping to talk about just a few things. The first thing I wanted to talk about was really how our office can help the residents of Deerfield Beach. I also wanted to quickly talk about how the real estate values are right now in Deerfield Beach, but just like everywhere else in Broward County, they are skyrocketing because people are coming from all over the country and they're making Deerfield Beach their home. And then I was just hoping to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is to provide people protection from title fraud, because there are a lot of criminals out there that try to steal people's properties every single day, and it's my goal to make sure that doesn't happen. But for the residents, there are two main functions to our office. The first function is we determine the value of every piece of property in Broward County for tax purposes, whether it's residential, commercial, tangible personal property, or centrally assessed property, which are railroads. And the reason that's important is because when they pay their property taxes, the amount of taxes they pay is a relation to the value of the property that we set and the tax rate set by Deerfield Beach, the commission, the school board, and all other taxing authorities. So the most important thing we want to do is make sure we get it right. And Broward County is a big place. More people live here than 13 states, the District of Columbia, and all U.S. territories except Puerto Rico. It is big. And there are more parcels that we appraise in many states. And even though the people in our office, I think, do a very, very good job and their appraisals are very, very accurate, mistakes can occur, or maybe people have information about their property that we don't have that can help us adjust the value that they pay taxes on. So I always tell everybody, please go to our website at bcpa.net, click on your property, type in your name, put your address in, look at your property record card. If you have any concerns with the value of your property for tax purposes, contact me by September 19th this year so we can adjust it to make sure it's accurate. So when your November tax bill comes out, that it's based only on the value you're supposed to pay taxes on. The second that we do, and this is what I love most about my job, is we give tax saving exemptions to people that qualify. And there are a lot of exemptions under Florida law that people qualify for. The most important one by far is the homestead exemption. If somebody lives here in Deerfield Beach, they made this their primary residence, it's where they're registered to vote. If they don't vote, where their declaration of domicile, where their car's registered to, this is where they raise their family, they get a homestead exemption. It does two things. The first thing it does, it takes $50,000 of value off the tax roll and they want to pay tax on. It saves them $800, $900, maybe $1,000 a year, depending on the local millage rates. But most importantly, it really protects them going forward. Because every year after you have a homestead exemption, the value of your tax on cannot go more than a maximum of 3%. And that is so important, especially right now, because as you'll see, people are coming from all over the country. They're paying a lot of money for residential properties. And this year, the market value of properties are going up 20, 30, 40, in some cases 50, 60, 70%. But if you have a homestead exemption, the value of the tax on cannot go up more than 3%. It is so important. It actually keeps the value of your tax on manageable, so it won't skyrocket with your market value. There are many other exemptions as well. Once you get a homestead exemption, there are exemptions for seniors, for veterans, for people with disabilities, for people who are visually impaired, for widows, and a whole bunch of others. And I always tell everybody, go to our website at bcpa.net, click on exemptions, and if there's something you're not getting, contact me by September 19th this year so we can apply it to make sure it's reflected in your tax bill. And also along those lines, this month, every single Broward County property owner is going to be getting a letter from me in the mail. It's actually this, your trim notice, the truth and millage notice. I always tell everybody it's not a tax bill. It's basically a document so people can make sure they don't overly pay in their property taxes. And it shows some of the things we spoke about. It shows the value of their property for tax purposes, all the tax saving exemptions they're currently getting. It shows the dates and times for what government's going to be discussing their budgets and their tax rates, and the amount of property taxes they're going to be asked to pay for this fiscal year. And I always tell everybody, when you get that in the mail, review it, look at the entire thing. If you have any concerns with the value of the property, if you're not getting every tax saving exemption you're entitled to, please contact me by September 19th so we can make sure those are reflected in your November tax bill. The third thing we do in our job, and this is just as important, you know, when somebody's entitled to a tax saving exemption, they should get it. They've earned it under the law. Conversely, if somebody is doing something improper, if they're cheating the system and they're knowingly frauding the system and getting an exemption they're not allowed to get and they're knowingly getting it, that's not okay either. Because what that means is they're not paying their fair share of money. That's less money going to you to provide great services to people of Deerfield Beach. And so we actually have a very aggressive fraud division that goes throughout the county every single day, and it cracks down on people who aren't playing by the rules. And to give you an idea, in recent years, we put billions of dollars of value back on the tax roll that equates to millions of dollars of property taxes that are paid every single year. And we back taxed and collected about $70 to $80 million and returned that to the taxpayers. And what I always tell everybody, please, if you're frauding the system, you're going to get a benefit for a little bit of time. But if you do it, we're ultimately going to find out, and the penalties are pretty significant. So please don't do it. Don't cheat the system. Just get exemptions you're entitled to get and pay only what you're supposed to pay, nothing more, nothing less. With that said, the values in Deerfield Beach are very interesting. They're going up pretty significantly, just like the rest of the county. And I've said this a few times. We have the reason that our values are going up so much is because our residential real estate market is on fire. You have people coming from all kinds of different states, and mostly states with an income tax. They're coming here and they're buying property in Broward County and they're making it their home. And they're paying a lot of money, cash in many situations, and much more than they were just a year ago. And so to give you an idea, if you took all the commercial and residential real estate on Deerfield Beach and you sold it last year in 2021, you would have got right about $11.248 billion. Fast forward 1 year to today, for 2022, you would get about $13.157 billion. That's almost a 17% increase in market value just in 1 year. The taxable value is basically the value that you all are utilizing, that you're going to set your millage rates on to determine the amount of money that you need to provide services to the people of Deerfield Beach. And in 2021, the taxable value for Deerfield Beach was right about $8.465 billion. Fast forward to 2022, the taxable value is about $9.349 billion. That's a 10.44% increase in taxable value. And to give you an idea, if you keep your millage rate the same, which was, I believe, 6.0018, that was the operating millage rate, that would bring another $5,304,779 of additional revenue to Deerfield Beach to provide services to the people of Deerfield Beach. And something that's very important to note is the vast majority of that additional revenue is not being paid for by your existing property owners because they're homesteaded. The value of their tax on can't go up more than 3%. Most of that additional revenue is being paid for by new property owners moving in paying top dollar for properties. And also the fact that Deerfield Beach has a significant amount of new construction added to the tax roll, which was about $214 million in new construction, the biggest being a $60 million warehouse that was actually added here as well. You have 17,644 homestead exemptions here in Deerfield Beach. You have 1,915 low-income seniors who save a significant amount of money in their property taxes. You get an exemption. You have 225 seniors that are long-term low-income seniors that pay no property taxes to the county. You have 2,210 widows that get an exemption here. And you also have 123 totally permanently disabled American Hero veterans who pay no property taxes to the city of Deerfield Beach. And also you have two totally permanently disabled first responders that don't pay property taxes as well. Now there are 14,949 parcels here within residential parcels in Deerfield Beach. The average market value is about $362,518, and the average taxable value is $199,737. The reason there's a discrepancy there is because those are all homesteaded properties. The value they're taxed on is capped, so it's not going to be as high as their market value. You also have approximately 17,148 condominium parcels here in Deerfield Beach. The average market value is $153,177, and the average taxable value is $103,211. Now, something that's very important is I also wanted to let the people of Deerfield Beach know about where the sales are. The sales are going to be different than the market value that I just mentioned. The sales are basically what were the sales last year and how do they compare to this year. And to give you an idea, in 2021, the average sale of a single family home in Deerfield Beach was right about $415,347. Fast forward to actually this month, the average single family home is selling for about $480,000. That's a significant increase from last year. Condominiums are seeing the same type of increase. Last year, the average condominium parcel sold for about $177,221. This year it's about $202,000, so it's a significant increase as well. The other thing I wanted to quickly talk about before I answer any questions was just something that I think is very, very important. And I like to talk about this every single city. And the reason being is because South Florida is a title fraud capital of the world. You have a lot of criminals, terrible people. What they do is they file fake deeds on people's property. They take those deeds and try to extort people for money or mortgage rent or even sell their property. And they do it all the time, and it's very easy for them to do. And it's very easy for them to do because the recording division for every county in the state of Florida has a ministerial duty. They have to accept whatever documents filed with them. So you have these people, I think they're criminals. They walk into the recording division, they file fake deeds and fake notarized signatures on somebody's property, and they take that deed, they do something nefarious with it. And it happens all the time. Unfortunately, the FBI indicated that it's easier to steal somebody's property than to get a fake credit card in somebody else's name. That is how bad it is. And so for me, I wanted to give people of Broward County the opportunity to fight the fraud before the fraud occurs. So last year we came up with a great program called Owner Alert. We built it all in-house, felt no taxpayer dollars doing it, and it's been a great program that's helped protect a lot of people. So if there's any resident of Deerfield Beach that goes to web.bcpa.net/owner alert, they can type in their name, they can type in their phone number, which they can easily grab from our website, and they can type in their email address. And if we have their email address on file, they're automatically verified. If we don't, we ask that they upload a Florida driver's license or Florida ID. If they don't have that, there are other ways to get verified as well. And then if any document, legitimate or not, is filed changing ownership of your property, you'll be notified instantaneously so you can make sure you're not defrauded out of the property. And for me, this has been kind of a big crusade. And so aside from that, we've also, one thing I want to let the people of Deerfield Beach know, and I also like to say this publicly too, because I want these criminals to know that they're not welcome in Broward County. And if they try to do this here, we're going to work hard to put them in jail. And so for the past number of months, we've actually been working with law enforcement. We've been successful with the U.S. Attorney's Office in helping criminally prosecute a couple of people who stole millions of dollars worth of properties in Broward County. We also work with the Broward Sheriff's Office. And I've been building cases against other people who are doing this. And even recently, and I'm very proud of this, Harold Pryor, our state attorney, and myself entered into an interlocal agreement. We're working on a number of cases to help put these bad people behind bars. And I like to bring that up again because I want these people to know that if they do this, there's a good chance they're going to get in a lot of trouble. But with that said, I can go on and on forever. I just appreciate so much y'all having me here today. Like I said before, I have a huge affinity for Deerfield Beach. I think the service that you all provide to people of Deerfield Beach is just awesome. I think the beach is incredible. I love the pier, the restaurants, everything about it. And another thing that I've gotten into recently, I've used your pickleball courts, and those are great. But with that said, is there any questions I can answer? And again, thank you all so much for having me.
Yes, Commissioner Drossman.
Well, it's good to see that Marty's enthusiasm hasn't waned any over the years.
Thank
So
you. I get very excited about property appraisal stuff. So.
can you just talk for a minute, please, about portability? Because I get a lot of, not a lot, but I get questions sometimes that in my district, they know I'd love to move from neighborhood A to neighborhood B, but I can't afford to do it. You know, I'd love to sell my house and take advantage of the market and step up and buy something else, but I can't afford it. But they don't realize the portability issue. Can you talk about that for a second, please?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for reminding me about that. Portability is so important. And it really gives people the opportunity to move from one home into another home and not be taxed out of that home. And here's the way it works. When somebody bought their home, they filed for homestead. And the most important thing that kicked in was the Save Our Homes Assessment Clause of the Florida Constitution that basically said that every year thereafter, the value you're taxed on couldn't go up more than 3% or the consumer price index, whichever is lower. So over time, the market value gets very high, but your assessed value stays capped. So you have all this value between the market value and your assessed value, you don't pay taxes on. If you decide you want to buy a home of equal value or greater value, you take whatever difference that is with you from your market value to your assessed value to your new home and don't pay taxes on it. If you buy a home of lower value, you take a percentage of it, and you can still save thousands of dollars a year on your property taxes. To give you an idea, you can move up to $500,000 of value to another home. And the key is you must do it within 3 tax years. And I'll give you a really good real world example. This is the maximum where people took the full $500,000 of value. So there was a couple that I knew that lived in Weston Hills. And Weston Hills is a higher end community in Weston. And they bought their home when Weston Hills was built many years ago, decades ago. And I don't know, they maybe bought it for a couple $100,000. It's on the golf course, it's a big home. Fast forward 2 decades, their kids are now out of the house. And they're a couple that are empty nesters, and they really wanted to move to a condo in downtown Fort Lauderdale, but they couldn't afford the taxes on that condo. So looked at their property. The market value of their home in Weston Hills was right about $1 million. And their assessed value was right about $500,000 because of that tax. So they had $500,000 of value they weren't paying taxes on. What they did, they sold their property there, and then they bought a condo for $1 million in Fort Lauderdale. And we moved that full $500,000 of value from their Weston home to their home in Fort Lauderdale, which dropped their assessed value to $500,000, which basically meant that the taxes they paid there were not much different than what they were in Weston. Portability is a great thing. You can use it everywhere in the state of Florida. You can go Broward to Broward, Broward to Miami-Dade back to Broward. I mean, it is just awesome. I love portability, and I always tell everybody, if you're gonna move, please go to our website at bcpa.net, click on our portability estimator, and you can get a good idea of what your tax will be with or without portability. That's my long-winded answer. I hope it made sense. So, thank you, Todd. That was a great question.
Thank you, Commissioner Preston.
What's that website? What's the website again for fraud?
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Ben. Thanks for bringing it up. So you have two websites that we have. Our one website, my understanding, gets about 2 million hits a day. It's been there for a long time, and that actually has it on there with me. And that's our first one, bcpa.net, like BrowardCountyPropertyPlacer.net. And if you go on there, right at the top, it just says click here to prevent fraud. You can click on that and you can sign up. And the other one is our new website that's very mobile friendly. And it's just web.bcpa.net. And then you can go /owner alert. It would bring you right to where it's supposed to be.
Again?
Sure. It's web.bcpa.net /owner alert. So OWNERALERT. Thank you very much. I've had like 5 cups of coffee, 2 Red Bulls, and a Diet Coke.
That's in the last half hour.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Are there any other questions? Marty, thank you so much. Great to see you as always.
Oh, thank you. And I can definitely tell you right now, I'm going to get back to my car. I'm driving about 2 miles to my Emerald Seas beach resort that we're going to be in for the next few days. And I am going to continue to enjoy the amazing city that y'all have. So thank y'all so much for having me. You guys are awesome. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, we have a certificate of recognition from Captain Thompson.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. City Manager, citizens of Deerfield Beach. Disclaimer, that's a tough act to follow. But now I know what the secret is. I've only got 2 cups of coffee.
Right.
I got to up my game. Very impressive. But thank you. I always appreciate the opportunity to come up here at least monthly. And I thank you for allowing me to always share some of the great work that our deputies do, because, you know, I know we put it out there as best as we can, the great efforts that we make to keep this community safe. But it's great to share the details, what happens behind the curtains, and especially at nighttime and daytime as well. The great, heroic, and unbelievable work that our deputies do, and how they put their safety on the line every day to maintain the safety of this community. So I'm happy to present before us today 2 people in person. We have Deputy Dan Cortez and Deputy Joshua Klimaszewski. Spelling, of course, Joshua. And joining us virtually as well is Deputy Barbara Hamilton and Detective Wellington. So I'll just share with you a little synopsis of the amazing work that they've done. On June 24th, it was a Saturday. An elderly female was exiting the Amtrak train at our Deerfield Beach train station. Exiting along with her was a predator. That's exactly what I refer to this person as, because that was purpose in life, is to prey on the vulnerable. This individual snatched this woman's purse in such a brutal fashion that he knocked her to the ground, causing injury. Luckily, this was reported to us immediately. And the trick in responding to a situation like this is, obviously, you've got a suspect who's immediately on the run, but it takes a real certain type of effective teamwork, and that's what it's all about. And all of our deputies responded to the scene. And in particular, with these deputies that are standing before us and also joining us virtually, and they received information, which is part of the challenge, is getting the information quickly and timely as possible. So they received information that the suspect had gone next door, ran into Home Depot. So Deputy Klimaszewski, and Deputy Hamilton gathered that critical information quickly, and timely. And with that information in hand, with the description, and that they headed into Home Depot, we secured a permit around Home Depot. But the challenge doesn't end there. As you know, Home Depot is quite an expansive business. And obviously for the safety of our deputies and the safety of the persons inside, it poses a significant challenge. And how do you locate these suspects and take them into custody safely? So in addition to teamwork, it takes a lot of patience and coordination. So Detective Ronaldo Wellington also arrived on scene, and he was able, with his connections at Home Depot, to gain quick access to the CCTV, the closed circuit television system. He was able to observe the suspects in the store, not only observe them and identify them based on the information that the deputies had garnered, but also that they were changing clothes. So at this point, we had them ID'd, we knew where they were, we saw that they were changing clothes. So we kind of figured the strategy at this point was where they're going to exit. So of course, they left the field of view of the cameras, and it becomes a little bit of a guessing game. But as they did, of course, attempt to make their escape from Home Depot, our deputies were on the case and eagle-eyed. And that's where Deputy Cortez sprung into action, and with the assistance of his fellow deputies, quickly took both suspects into custody. So I'm happy to report, and I say both suspects, because in addition to this predator, he had somebody who was working in coordination with him to help stalk these victims. So this is a coordinated criminal activity that was going on that they brought to our city on this train, and our deputies quickly extinguished. And the suspects were brought back to the station, and they did confess to their crimes. The victim's property was recovered, and luckily she's healing and doing well. So for these heroic and outstanding law enforcement efforts, I commend these deputies, and I'm happy to present them with certificates as our employees of the month.
Our next item is we have a presentation from Niagara Perk.
I'm not Niagara Perk, but I am Terry Reiner with the Parks and Recreation Department. So good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. We have a fantastic opportunity. We applied for a $75,000 grant for a large outdoor event space pavilion / reunion space / education pavilion at Oviedo McKeithen. We were selected as one of the 9 finalists, and now we need everybody to vote. So you can vote once a day for the next 41 days, and the top 3 cities that get the most votes get $75,000 grant. So this is part of our National Parks and Recreation Association project, sponsored by Niagara Water. And we have a quick video, and if we could encourage everybody to vote, you can vote once a day per email address person, and for the next 41 days. So let's give our community what they deserve and get out there and vote.
Deerfield Beach, have you heard the news? Deerfield Beach could win a $75,000 grant to build a new pavilion here at Oviedo McKeithen Park.
Wow, $75,000 to build a new West Side Pavilion.
But we need your help.
On August 1st, log on and vote.
Guess what? You can vote more than once. So go to the link, follow the instructions, vote, 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 and vote for Oviedo McKeithen Park.
We can't win this grant without you.
Voting starts August 1st. We got this, DFB.
So I just wanted to thank our public affairs and marketing department. They put that together along with several of our staff that are passionate about the city, and hopefully we'll encourage everyone, all your friends, to vote if you go to our webpage, our main city webpage, it pops right up. You can vote there as well. Thank you all.
Excellent, thank you. It's very easy to vote. I just did it while we were watching that presentation. Commissioner Grassley.
Terry was a little, I had some question for you, just a comment. If you blinked, you missed it. It's 1 vote per email address per day. So if you're like me and have multiple email addresses, you can stuff the ballot box and vote multiple times. Not that I've done that, but it's possible to do, yes.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Anthony Soroka, City Attorney. For the record, we moved up public comment, so we'll start there tonight. Persons addressing the commission shall state his or her name and address and may speak for 3 minutes, unless extended for 1 additional minute by the mayor. As a reminder, this is the time for public comment on items that are not on the agenda tonight. If you have public comment on an item that's on the agenda, the time to do that is after I read the title into the record, and the public comment period for that item is opened up, and no comment shall be made related to the personal life or personal qualities of any person, and no language which would offend persons of ordinary sensibilities shall be permitted.
Ms. Calavita, so come up.
Hello, good evening. My name is Maria Colavito, and my husband and I are.
I just need your address, please.
My address, okay, 1001 Southeast 6th Avenue, Deerfield Beach, Town Manor Apartments. My concern happens to be tonight regarding that address. For several weeks now, especially on the weekend and a couple nights during the week, there's a lot of drag racing going on up and down 10th Street. I took some pictures. I don't know, are they available?
We're gonna have them sent to us. Take a look at them, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they are doing donuts. They're spinning their wheels. They're causing so much noise, and our particular apartment is right on the facing the east and also facing the north, and it's just becoming very disturbing. I called non-emergency this past week for the first time, and the operator said to try to get an officer out. I have not seen any officers patrol. I don't know what the budget's like. I don't know if there's availability to have cops available so that it's kind of like a deterrent if they're there. But this is going on for quite a long time. And I'm surprised that, you know, it continues to go on. I hear it on the other side too. You know, where the Anglican church is back in that neighborhood, they're back in there as well. So it's like they go to one area and then they spin out and then they go to another area. And it happens anytime between midnight and 4 a.m. in the morning.
We're gonna have Chief Hofstein talk to you about that. We're gonna make sure.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for your time and allowing me to bring this to your attention, because I didn't know where to go with this. It's been, I'm not sleeping. Nobody's sleeping in my house.
No, thank you for letting us know. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public?
Hi, guys.
Hi there.
Todd, thank you. So
Thank
Chapman, I'm the president of the HOA at River Glen. We're over on the Turnpike in Hillsborough, and I sit on the Marine Advisory. I came down here in January and said that we've got some problems on the horizon with the way crime is being handled in Darlington. Came in here, and I think it was in May, and mentioned that the head of the courts in Broward County had announced that misdemeanors and minor felonies would basically be prosecuted. And the district attorney has said that, well, if you're poor, you don't have to pay a fine. It's not a good thing. New York, New Orleans, Chicago, San Francisco, everywhere this has been tried, it's turned into a disaster. 2 years ago, we had no problems in the president's court, no problem. In the last month, it's been just a, excuse me, S show. It's been horrible. Mary, you told me to go talk to Broward County. I'm as one of 2 million people. My voice is as effective as a 5 fart in a hurricane. They don't care. You can talk to them and they'll care. You're one of 14 city mayors. We have 14, 22 communities.
There's more than that.
Okay, but you're an important man to the management up there. On July 1st, we had a flash party in our swimming pool. They broke glass. Didn't do a lot of vandalism, but it's just made a mess. We cleaned it up. On the 3rd of January, we had another party show up. They did $10,000 worth of damage. They literally broke one of the pool vents, drains in the bottom of the pool, ground up glass and shoved it into the filtration system. $10,000 to fix that. Had to shut the facility down for a while. I called Broward County, and guys, I love you. And you do a great job. You're the thin blue line. But I was told, I was told that I should hire a retired police officer to patrol our facility. We pay taxes. It's real time. We want the real guys. Got a hold of Todd. Robert Colin showed up. John Bessie showed up. These guys were fantastic. They listened to what we had to say. They looked at what our problems were. They gave us a 41-page report on what we should do. They counseled us on lighting, counseled us on landscaping. We talked about license plate readers, which turns out to be very difficult for the city to implement. On July the 10th, we had a homeowner videotape 2 cars pull up in front of her house. One had 2 people jump out. Her car was unlocked. They stole things from inside the car. Well, the 2 cars, one of the 2 cars had just been stolen from another street in our community, and they take off. We have no idea what. On the 23rd, we had another party. By this time, I got a bunch of guys together who live right there and said, call BSO.
Like 1 minute. Yeah.
Call BSO. They called BSO. BSO came in, cited, trespassed everybody who was there. There wasn't a single person from our community in that group. It's a flash mob. On July 30th, we had another homeowner videotape individuals coming into the community, buy an SUV, get out, and start checking cars to see if anybody was on the block. Felonies, misdemeanors, we're just going to let you go. I've talked to line police officers, and their comment has been, why are we even here? This is crazy. This is crazy. This is going to be New York City, Detroit, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, Deerfield Beach. You guys need to do something about this. And this is not just my community. This is county-wide. Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
Chris Marino, 1525 Southeast 14th Court, Deerfield Beach. At last month's meeting, I stood here before my fellow citizens with what I thought was a straightforward and simple request to our city commission. My request was simply asking that our city commission stand true to their commitment to nonpartisan representation and leave partisan politics out of the city of Deerfield Beach business. Furthermore, at no time was I argumentative or disrespectful. I simply called out that using our city microphones for partisan politics is wrong and unacceptable. Mayor Gantz stated that. I don't think that anybody sits up here and gives their right to share their ability to speak their free will or free mind, just like you don't restrict anyone who comes to the podium. Now, Mayor Gantz, the First Amendment is equally important to me, and free speech should be fought for as well, particularly in this time of censorship of political views by big tech companies, and even our federal government by labeling their opponents' views as misinformation. However, no one's free speech is coming into question. What is coming into question is that our city commission is abusing its privilege and valuable time of the citizens of Deerfield Beach. I, as a citizen, as well as a string of others, had simply requested that we use our City of Deerfield Beach Commission meeting time specifically for matters directly related to the business of City of Deerfield Beach. If our commissioners would like to share their political points of view in public, there are many other ways that they can do this rather than using our time and our resources for that. Mr. Preston, I noticed that you had become visibly angry when I spoke and sensed your anger throughout the night of the last meeting. Why? We are not your enemies. We are your fellow citizens. You stated that in some way we misrepresented your position or point of view. I can't see how. The others and I simply asked that our commission keep our commission meetings about Deerfield Beach and not partisan issues. And we really don't think that that's too much to ask. You? Even after 10 straight minutes of discussing on this topic at our last meeting, which should never happen, you decided to double down and come back with more anti-Second Amendment rhetoric, as well as firmly chastising your citizens for speaking up. This is not acceptable. I'd like to point out that statements made by Commissioner Parnas in the June commission meeting actually were the catalyst to this all. And he happened to be absent from the last meeting as he's absent today. And I asked that Commissioner Parnas refrain from using divisive talking points and consider cohesive talking points as only working together as a community will Deerfield remain a great place for all of us to live. We spent 12.5 minutes of our last city commission meeting debating a partisan issue raised by commissioners who had agreed to represent their citizens in a nonpartisan manner. Now, I can't see how this is fair to the citizens and especially to many citizens who disagree with those partisan political views. This forum belongs to the citizens and we demand that we are represented equally. I once again appeal to our commissioners and now I also appeal to our citizens. We should be using this time to focus on issues of Deerfield Beach and not to be sidetracked with issues that do not directly advance matters of Deerfield Beach. I am suggesting that if our city commission for some reason refuses to refrain from pushing partisan issues,
Yes.
I am suggesting that if our city commission for some reason refuses to refrain from pushing partisan issues, that we citizens stand together against this behavior and hold our elected officials accountable for their commitment. I and other citizens have no desire to be divided, and the talking point we are discussing tonight is certainly a divisive issue, and would be many other partisan topics. I propose that going forward, we end all partisan political discussion at our city commission meetings and simply focus on Deerfield Beach. This simply doesn't seem like much to ask. Quite frankly, I'm disappointed that we need to ask. Let's all look at this from a logical point of view. If our city commission plans to spew partisan politics from our city microphones, the residents will speak in opposition every time. Think of all the time that's going to go to waste. Is this what we want in Deerfield Beach? I certainly hope not. And now after we the people speak, the ball is back in your court. I hope that you can respect the fact that your citizens who have the final say in Deerfield Beach, and we will hope that we don't need to remind you very often.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else from the public? Okay.
So, I'm Kate Tanner, 111 Southeast Avenue, Village Tanner Way, Deerfield Beach. And I have something to say. And I'll probably come and say it again in the next few months, but we have a birthday coming up. The Deerfield Beach Historic Butler House will be 100 years old next year. A beautiful gem of Deerfield. We're very proud to have it and very fortunate to have it. Plus, a double dome with the Historical Society will be 50 years old. So in the next year, in the next few months, we're going to be announcing some functions, and we hope that you will all share it with your constituencies so that we can all get together, because the Historical Society is not just one little place over here, it's everybody's. The people that were in it, the people that built the house, they loved Deerfield. They didn't love this street or that street. They love Deerfield. So I will be back again, and I may have some way other people might come too to share things that we're going to be doing. And we appreciate all the support of our commissioners and all of your voters. Please remind them. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else from the public?
Well, my name is Patricia Ling.
You might want to wait till you're up to the microphone so we record it.
Patricia Ling, 252 Ventnor or Deerfield Beach. What seems very unimportant after all these wonderful speeches, everybody brought up wonderful points. But I just wanted to know that I understand that we're losing 6 parking lots from our beach parking, just only for electric cars. And those electric cars will be able to put electricity in their cars for free. And I just find that really, really very sad that I don't have an electric car. I don't have the money to buy an electric car, nor do I want one at the moment. But I'm not only am I losing a parking space to go to the beach, we're going with our taxes, giving people free electric on our taxes when I have to go stand in line in a gasoline station. So maybe you could, did I hear wrong?
Would you like an explanation?
Yes.
We'll give you an explanation.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all you have. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Willie R. Graham Gracie, 501 Northwest First Terrace, Newton, Detroit. And I'm urging the sheriff or the parks rangers to make sure that gate is closed every night at John McKeithen Park. Because, I mean, as all of you all know, it was a little girl missing about a month ago, 12 years old. And I think they found her in Palm Beach. And the sheriff was over there looking all in the door, in the bathroom doors and all around for her. And they asked me, did I see her? And I said, no, I didn't see her. Because, you know, it's really dangerous. So I urge them to close that, make sure that park is closed every night.
Has it not been closed?
It's not closed every night, no.
Okay.
And mostly it's on a weekend when I guess people be over there and they let it stay open.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Adam Medici, 1750 Southeast.
I'm sorry, your name one more time?
Adam Medici.
Thank you.
1750 Southeast Fifth Court, Deerfield Beach, the Cove neighborhood. I come here to speak for runners like myself, walkers, beachgoers, bikers, anybody else crossing on Hillsborough Bridge. They drive crazy fast, and it's just every time, you know, I run every other day over across it. I see my neighbors running, walking, and shake our heads when we cross this bridge. I feel like I take my life in my hand every time I run over that bridge. As I'm running over it, you know, I'm always, you know, like this to the cars going by. It's going to happen. It's going to take somebody out, and it's going to be a tragic accident. And we need to do something about it.
Are you on the sidewalk or are you in the road?
On the sidewalk.
Okay.
I would, even on a bicycle.
No, you scared me when you said you were running on the bridge.
No.
Okay.
Even on a bicycle, you know, I know the bike lane is part of the road.
Sure.
But I get off my bike and I walk across. I won't ride my bike across that bridge. I mean, it's crazy. My cousin, who's involved in some of the engineering in this town, he's like, I had brought it to his attention. He had said that it's part of the Department of Transportation, like Washington DC. Is that true?
It's a dot, that's that road.
It's a dot. Is it a dot road?
Yeah.
I mean, I think of ways that to come across to make them go slower. And, you know, I've brushed it with him. I know you can't have a speed bump on a road that's, you know, 35 or more, or whatever it is, but, you know, whether it be a electronic light, you know, front and back, you know, 15 seconds before the bridge comes out, everyone wants to beat the bridge, obviously, and they go racing across it, and it's bad. The curb is about this high and easily to be jumped by a speeding car. It's going to take out somebody walking across that bridge. My question, I bought a house here 10 years ago. I moved here 5 years ago. I love Deerfield Beach. I wouldn't live in any other town around here, I'll be honest with you. No offense to the surrounding towns around here, but I think this is a great, real town, you know?
You can insult them, it's okay. We're all right with that. You can insult them, we're okay with that.
Yeah, no, I don't want to insult them, but it's, like I said, I really do. It's just awesome. But an authentic kind of beach, real community. But that's a problem. And, you know, I will, you know, donate money to help it get done. I'm serious. We're, you know, I'd like to preempt something happening, you know, whatever that takes. I'd like to be involved in it, and I'll donate some time to it, whatever it is. It's a serious issue.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? All right, yeah, I'm gonna close it to the public. To address the issue, I know Chief Hosteen is going to meet with Ms. Calavita regarding that as far as the traffic. And just to deal with all the traffic issues we have had, that we're having, like Mr. Medici said, it's absolutely insane what's happening on our roadways. And we just had a court case, and I want to thank BSO for their hard work in that, in which we had a young woman who was killed leaving Deer Creek probably about 2 years ago. I think we're at this point now, 2 years ago. And the driver was driving over 100 miles an hour, killed her, 18 years old, leaving Deer Creek on Hillsborough. It persists to this day. It is not stopped. It hasn't slowed down. I live probably 500 yards from the pool, Mr. Chapman's pool. We have the same issue in my complex, same exact issues that you're having, and it's gated, sort of gated. It kind of bleeds into yours with no gate on your side, but they go right into it. So we're having the same problems. If you look in your neighborhood, when you go to pull out on 45th, you see the donut spun out there. We have this problem all around now. I have asked the city manager to make sure in our budget and to meet with the chief that we have the amount of money in our budget to be able to do some strong traffic calming or traffic enforcement. The truth of the matter is, it's a very impossible task for them. You look at Hillsborough, flat stretch, couple of nice little lifts there, and they fly up and down the street. And even with the train tracks we have in 2 sections of Hillsborough, it's a speedway. 10th Street's just as bad. So we're trying to do everything we can. It is hard to get creative when the FDOT has a lot of controls about what you can do, but there are certain things we can do. As far as the crime you're talking about, actually, license plate readers are becoming a lot easier here in the city of Deerfield Beach. We did our first pilot program. It's been very successful. We've installed some, or we've made some changes, and correct me if I'm wrong as the city manager, but we made some changes to allow them to be a lot easier. In your neighborhood, it's actually very easy. It's a great area. There's only 3 exits and entrances, and the entire neighborhood, that takes up 5 communities in there. Really, Starlight Cove, Gates of Hillsborough, all the communities, I believe it's a total of 5 when you look at it. All you have is 3 entrances and exits. That's a prime spot there for license plate readers. Now, it's not going to stop what's happening in progress. I don't encourage anybody to call downtown when something like that's happening. Don't even mess with the non-emergency number. Call 911 and get directly to our sheriff's office. It's better to deal with our BSO officers here internally in the city than trying to go downtown with that. As far as encouraging you to contact the people that actually have the power, yes, I have a voice in one of 31 mayors here in the city here in Broward County, but I can tell you right now, 7 of you calling your county commissioner on the same issue is going to get you more weight than me making 1 phone call. It sounds ridiculous, but the truth of the matter is, to them, when it gets over a dozen people start calling in, they start to take notes. Strength is always in numbers. So we can wield a sword for you. Each one of us as individuals up here, we can do that, but I can tell you right now, strength in numbers when it comes to trying to get the attention of Broward County. I encourage you to do that. Commissioner Mark Bogan represents all of Broward County. He's a great commissioner. He will listen to you, but it will get their attention. So I encourage you. Now, if it's only you that feels this way, then okay, then we've got about the same phone call, and maybe mine will have a little bit more weight. But if there's others that feel the same way you do, I encourage you to get together and make a simple phone call and call them, because I think that's where you can see some action when it comes to that. It really is effective. It's very helpful. As far as partisan issues up here, I don't really know what made it partisan. You might have a different point of view, but debating an issue that we might have direct control over or making a comment on something, I think everybody has the right to do that. I respect the fact that, look, let's take the issues we have control over, and I encourage the commission to keep that in mind when we're talking about issues that really don't pertain to some of the things that we have direct control of. Sharing your opinion on an issue, especially when a tragedy happens, it's not necessarily partisan, because there are people that might be on your side, whatever party you're from, they might have a different opinion. It doesn't fall black and white. So yeah, we can go back and forth from this and go round and round, but just because someone shares their opinion, it doesn't, to me, we give that up sitting up here. But we should spend our time focusing on things that we have control over. I can understand that. But I don't see what makes it partisan if someone wants to share their opinion on an issue. But I appreciate you being here and bringing your points up and doing it in a very civil manner. So I really appreciate that. So thanks for sharing your opinion on that. As far as the parking spaces regarding the electric cars, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor David Santucci, City Manager. Those parking spaces and the electrical infrastructure came from an FP&L grant. FP&L paid for charging stations, they paid for the installation, they paid for the infrastructure, and they're paying for the maintenance for, I believe, 10 years. They only charge the city is electricity, which is a nominal cost. It's a pilot program to encourage sustainable efforts throughout the city, which obviously includes electrical vehicles and electrical infrastructure for that. It's the first one within the city, and that's what it is. They do have to pay for the parking, so they have to pay for parking just like any other person in that parking lot, any other vehicle in that parking lot. But everything besides the electricity, which again is estimated to be a nominal cost, was free through an FP&L grant.
And we're not talking about federal government nominal costs either. Okay, so let's keep that in perspective. It's a very, very small amount. Yes, 3 parking spaces are being given up for that. That is correct. But it is trying as a way to try to get to a more sustainable environment, which is one of the things that we try to do as a goal here in the city. If you want to discuss it with me later, I'm happy to discuss it. Okay, and as far as making sure that park is locked up, we will make sure that that park is locked up there. Thank you. Okay. That'll close it to the public.
All right, the next item on the agenda is item number 4, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving a $20,000 increase to the maximum award amounts available for assistance to low-income and moderate-income households under the Purchase Assistance and Homeowner Rehabilitation Affordable Housing Programs, providing for implementation and an effective date.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was discussed at the last meeting. This is the resolution to enact what was discussed at the last meeting, and it allows for a $20,000 increase to the maximum amount awarded for available assistance to low-income and moderate-income households for the Purchase Assistance and Homeowner Rehabilitation Programs. The purpose for this is in recognition and recommendations from our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee to increase the amount to keep pace with the rising costs of not only home repair projects, but home ownership initiatives as well. Happy to answer any questions or bring up the acting director to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you. Does anybody from the public care to speak on this item? I don't see anyone to close it to the public. Commission, you have any questions regarding this? I know we discussed this at the last meeting. Mr. Preston.
No, I was just gonna make a motion.
Go for it.
Second.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We have a motion from Commissioner Preston, second by Vice Mayor Hudak. We need roll call on that one, Anthony? It's just increasing the threshold, so it's on dollar amounts.
Yeah, it's not an expenditure in and of itself.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, passes unanimously.
Item number 5 on tonight's agenda is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving the fiscal year 2022-2023 Community Development Block Grant (CDBG) Annual Action Plan, providing for implementation and an effective date.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. John Salas, Acting Director for the Human Services Department. In tonight's presentation, the city's fiscal year 22-23 CDBG Annual Action Plan. Next slide. So the presentation will accomplish the purpose of CDBG, the CDBG program overview, Annual Action Plan overview, the citizen participation process, priorities and proposed activities, timeline, and the public comment component. Next slide. So as a funding requirement for CDBG, entitlement communities are required to develop a 5-year consolidated plan, which is carried out through an annual action plan, which identifies activities for fiscal year 22-23. Next slide. So CDBG is a federally funded program through HUD, The City of Deerfield Beach is an entitlement community, which we receive an annual allocation each year. And the purpose of CDBG is to provide decent housing, a suitable living environment, and better economic opportunities. All CDBG eligible activities must meet one of three following national objectives: benefit low to moderate income persons, aid in the prevention of or elimination of slum and blight, address urgent community development needs. With CDBG funding, 70% of the allocation must benefit low to moderate income residents. Next slide. So on this slide, you'll see some of the activities that are eligible for CDBG, which the city, we carry out public services, we carry out the rehabilitation program, we carry out micro enterprise assistance, the homeowner assistance program, and program administration. Next slide. So CDBG entitlement communities are required to complete an annual action plan each year, submitted to HUD on August 16th. So this plan pretty much lays out the activities that the department and the city would like to carry out, which is part of our fiscal year 2024 consolidated plan. Next slide. So with CDBG, we're required to have citizens participation, which on this slide, it outlines all the participation we had and public input that we had from the community. We had a pre-development meeting in February, where we took public input. We had a public hearing on July 18th, and here we are tonight, August 2nd. So we had a 30-day public comment period as well that extended from July 2nd to July 31st, which allowed the community to comment on our plans and activities. So with developing this plan, we work with city departments, which included planning, parks, environmental services, and several other departments. We work with our housing authority, we work with our affordable housing advisory committee as well, which had input in this plan. Next slide. So with CDBG, the plan priorities, which priority number one is to increase access to affordable housing. Priority number two is providing for infrastructure improvements, and priority number three is increase access to public services. Next slide. So here we have the activities that we have proposed for fiscal year 22-23. And we want to do our homeowner rehabilitation program, which we're looking to assist a minimum of 4. We have our purchase assistance program, which we just approved increasing the subsidy amount. So we're looking to assist a minimum of 1. With our senior transportation program, we're looking to assist at least 100 seniors with rides. And then we have our health and wellness program. We want to assist at least 50 seniors. And then the rest is program administration. So our allocation for fiscal year 23 is $659,734. Next slide. So on this slide here are the income guidelines that are required to participate in our CDBG programs. These income limits are provided yearly from HUD every April. So with CDBG, we cannot exceed the 80% AMI threshold. You'll see 120 here on this slide, which 120 we utilize for some of our other fundings under other funding sources, which is state funds, but with CDBG, we cannot exceed 80% of the area median income, which I always like to highlight a household of 4. The maximum for that household will be $72,550 for you to qualify under the CDBG guidelines. Next slide.
Yeah.
So on this slide, you'll see the CDBG target areas, which we talked about some of those eligible activities on slide number 5. So anywhere where you see red, we have 51 to 100% of the residents are considered low to moderate income. And we can do public service activities, which are such as sidewalk improvements, sewer and drainage improvement, and programs like that, which we carried out throughout the years. And some of these census tracts where we'll see 51 to 100% of the residents are low to moderate income. Next slide. So the planning timeline, we had a 30-day public comment period that ended on July 31st. Tonight, we're proposing adoption of the plan, and then we'll transmit this to HUD on August 16th, as I mentioned in the presentation previously. Next slide. Any questions?
Question. Commissioner Vice Mayor.
Thank you very much for your presentation. How many residents did we assist last year?
So last year was slightly different due to the COVID-19 pandemic, where we were able to assist 4 homeowners with purchase assistance, and we assisted 15 residents with homeowner rehabilitation. Our transportation services, we assisted 45 seniors with rides. And our health and wellness, we were able to utilize those funds as well due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
And what is our goal this year?
So this year's goal is we would like to assist 100 residents with rides. We'd like to assist 50 with our health and wellness program. We want to get things up and running again at the Center for Aging. And we're looking to, we'll do 4. We'll assist 4 applicants with rehab. Our subsidy amount went down a little bit this year, and we'll assist at least 1 with purchase assistance.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Drosky.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not a question, it's more a statement, but sometimes it's difficult to match up, the backup with what we're being discussed versus the presentation, but this matches up very well. And so I don't have any questions because the goals of the funding are 1, affordable housing, 2, infrastructure, and 3, public services. And then if you look at the funding for the different categories, the number 1, the highest dollar amount is the homeowner rehabilitation program, and it goes all the way down to the Meals on Wheels program, which falls under the public services. So I think this lines up perfectly. Thank you for the presentation. I mean, I'll be voting for it, but it's good when it all lines up. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone from the public who care to comment on this item? Yes, ma'am. Your name and address for the record, please.
Paul Cook, and I'm at 62 Centennial Court, Deerfield Beach. And I just wanted to know if the PowerPoint will be available on
Yes, it's
the
online.
website.
It's online now. All of our backup material is just so you know.
Deerfield Beach.
Yes, if
Down.
you go to city commission meeting, you'll be able to see our backup material. It's all on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Check online. Ms. Clark Reed, representative.
Gwen Clark Reed, 1430 Southwest 6th Way. My question for Mr. Salas was that did our amount from the federal government increase this year or decrease?
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Closing to the public. Can you answer that, Mr. Salas?
Yes. State Representative Clark Reed. So last year, our allocation was 704,000. This year, our allocation is 659,000, so a decrease. To answer your question.
Thank you. Commission. Commissioner Parnas.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion from Commissioner Parnas, seconded by Commissioner Preston. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, passes unanimously.
Next item is item number 6 on the agenda. Ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 38, Finance and Taxation of the City Code of Ordinances. Article 4, Acquisition of Goods and Services and Disposal of City Property. Section 38-133, Federal and State Projects, Federal Grants, to increase the subsidy approval thresholds for the residential rehabilitation program, providing for conflict severability, codification, and an effective date. And this is second reading.
Mr. Santucci, any comments?
No comments, as I stated on the first reading. This is the item that will effectuate the procurement side of the item that you just approved to increase the amount for the housing programs of additional $20,000.
Excellent. Is there anyone from the public who would care to comment on this item? Not seeing any, I'm going to close it to the public commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Preston, motion, seconded by Vice Mayor Hudak. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Next item is item number 7, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending Section 66-58, parking prohibited on certain streets and commercial vehicle parking restrictions of the City Code of Ordinances to prohibit parking on Northwest Eller Street between Northwest Second Court and Northwest Second Terrace, providing for conflict severability, codification, and an effective date. This is second reading.
Is there anyone from the public that would care to comment on this item? So go ahead and close it to the public then. I will say this, I fully support it because I know those residents over there needs for what's been happening. So let's hopefully this will pass through. Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your comments. This has to do with commercial vehicles that are just beginning to invade our communities, and it's just not acceptable. So that's why I brought this forward, with exactly what you just said, Mayor, to bring some relief to the residents in that area. So with that, I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Preston, authoritative second from Commissioner Parnas. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
Item number 8, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, reappointing Giuseppe Papena to the Board of Trustees of the Municipal Police Officers Retirement Trust Fund of the City of Deerfield Beach, providing for an effective date.
Okay, is there anyone from the public that would care to comment on this item? So online, and we'll close it to the public.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Drosky, seconded by Vice Chair Hudak. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
We're now at the consent agreements and expenditures request portion of tonight's meeting, items number 9 through 15 are currently on consent.
Is there anyone from the public that would care to comment on any item 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, or 15?
Drink. I need to know.
Oh, we don't.
Just raise your hand if you'd like to comment on one. We have 1, 2. Which item would you like to comment on?
15.
15, what would you like to comment?
10,
10?
10.
Just 10?
No. Well, I guess 14, 1 or 2.
Well, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna pull items 10, 13, and 14. Any other polls from the commission?
9.
Number 9. Okay. 15 as well. All right, so that leaves us with what?
Oh, and 17.
Yeah, we're not that. This is 9 through 15. So 11, 12, and 13 we can do together with one motion. Anyone else? Okay. Let's see. Okay. So someone can make a motion on.
Motion to approve 11, 12, and 13.
Second.
A motion by the Vice Mayor, second by Commissioner Preston. A roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas. Commissioner Parnas. You're muted.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hudak,
Yes.
Mayor Gantz.
Yes.
Item number 9 is a resolution.
I'm sorry, hold on one second. We skipped Commissioner Preston.
Oh,
I
I'm
think
sorry.
Commissioner Parnas scared her.
Like being part of this. Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Parnas.
Item number 9 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving the award of request for proposals number 22-27-JW for holiday lighting, authorizing execution of an agreement with the top-ranked responsive and responsible proposer, Grandano Displays, Inc., for holiday lighting services for a 2-year term with 1-year renewals and an annual amount not to exceed $149,943.44, providing for implementation and an effective date.
Thank you. Anyone from the public here to comment on this item? We pulled it for someone. Yes, you know. I'm going to close it to the public then, since I don't see anyone coming up to talk on it. Commissioner Drosky.
I pulled this item. I mean, I'll be voting in favor of this. And I did speak with staff, prior to the meeting tonight on this item, as I do all of the items. But my concern that I told staff, and I'm going to say publicly, is this needs to wow going forward. This is a big increase. 150,000 for holiday lighting is not an insubstantial amount, so I've been told that this is going to be far different than the knockoff Tradewind version that we get every year, and so this needs to wow to justify this price. So that's my comment. And I've told, the palm trees will be wrapped with the palm fronds and the lights, and we'll have better displays. So I'm going to hold them to that, given this price point. But my theme up here has always been to go bold. And if this is bold and brings people, and it looks like we think it's going to look, and it'll bring people from our own city and surrounding communities, then that's a benefit to the business, it's a benefit to the city, and that's how I can justify it. So that's my comments on why I had it pulled.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner. Is that a motion?
I suspect so. Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Drosky, seconded by Commissioner Parnas. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hula,
Yes.
Mayor Dan.
Yes.
Item number 10 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving the award of request for proposals number 22-28-JW for the design, supply, and install of playground equipment for Oviedo McKeithen Park, authorizing execution of an agreement with the top-ranked responsible and responsive proposer, Playmore West Inc., for the services in an amount not to exceed $546,931 with a 10% contingency, approving the use of target area trust funds in an amount not to exceed $300,000, providing for appropriation of funds, implementation, and an effective date.
And from the public here to comment on this item. Yes, ma'am.
Paula Cook, 62 Centennial Court. And there's just two things. One, I am voting every day to get our 75,000 hopefully. But there's a $500,000 playground. I was just wondering if we have a diagram of it or something yet. I'd sort of like to see that when it's available.
It's available. It's online. We'll get you that information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public here to comment? All right, I'm closest to the public. Terry, do you mind responding?
Thank you, Terry Reiner, Parks and Recreation. Thank you for the question. A couple of things. This design was done through about 6 community engagement cafe meetings with the public. And the caveat when we designed it was, here's all the stuff we want, and the director will work with the firm to make sure it turns out exactly how we want. This is a destination playground. So unlike anything else we have here in the community, we picked Oviedo, it's our central park. We had the ability to get grant funding from CDBG for half of it. And the other half is coming from the Target Zone Trust Fund, which is designated for that area. And I think it's a great amenity for the city. And I really do appreciate the community's input on the design. So what you see right now is where we are today. We run our code of silence. I will talk to him tomorrow morning as I'm calling to make a few tweaks to make sure we meet exactly what the community asks us for.
Okay, you had 5 meetings, correct? Is that what it was?
5 minutes.
How many of the community cafes did we have?
Oh, we've had on this subject alone with a few introduction things, 5, and I think we had our 7th last night.
Okay, so we had our 7th, Ms. Cook, we had our 7th meeting, public meeting last night regarding this. This is all based on public comment and what the public wanted to do this. Half of it being paid for by a grant, and the other half being paid for by target area funding. So definitely encourage you to sign up for the alerts to be able to attend those on those if you want to have some input on it for sure, or in the early stages too. Any other comments? Okay, for motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, excuse me, let's do roll call on this.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Morales,
Yes,
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Mayor Hughes.
Yes.
Item number 14 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, authorizing the sole source purchase of a programmable logic controller, PLC, network, and I/O upgrades for the water plant operations from AWC Inc. in the amount of $792,000, providing for execution and an effective date.
Thank you. Can we get an explanation of what this part is going to do and why it's sole source?
Absolutely, Mayor. We talked about this item at the last meeting. This was the, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but this is the fitness center art piece that we were awarded and entered into an agreement for. So this component of, or this actual item is the resolution to approve the agreement now that he's there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on 11, I apologize. This sole source is required because the compatible system within the water plant is it is a network from a particular manufacturer, and the replacement of the components within that system require us to replace that with like in kind from the same manufacturer. And so this upgrade is required, and it's to be a sole source for that reason. To replace it with something else would require us to replace all of the other system components that are related to the system.
Thank you. Anyone from the public that care to comment on this item? Yes, ma'am.
Just one thing. Paula Cook, 62 Centennial. I'm sure this is necessary, and I'm not saying anything against it. It's just that with such a large, I believe this is is there a lot of IT involved in this stuff? Is it, whatever it is, do our engineers, are they going to be able to maintain this?
We'll get that question answered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because that's just as important as putting it in, maintaining it afterwards.
Good evening, Priscilla Sigalnik, Director for Environmental Services. I do have Hamid Nikban. He is available online, and he can speak to you a little more specifically about the need for this. It is an ARPA-funded project. It's an initiative that we've had as part of our overall master plan improvements for the water plant. Hamid, if you can speak to the PLC improvements, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Commissioner, Mayors. Hamid Nikwan, Assistant Director of Environmental Services. This item is programmable logic controller. This is the core electronic system within the water plant that allows our operator to maintain, monitor, and operate the treatment system within the water plant. As City Manager mentioned, this is not something that we can easily switch to other brand, because required to touch all infrastructure and electrical and electronic components of our system. It's going to be discontinued by manufacturer starting 2023. So we were able to maintain this electronic system over the past 20 years. And now we're at the point that we can't even find the replacement part to further maintain this system. There is a migration guide by manufacturer that we're following that. And sole authorized provider in South Florida, it's AWC Inc., which they have trained engineer from manufacturer, and we're going to utilize that service to replace our old and PLC system that we have within the water plant. So in order to do that, we need to upgrade and migrate it to a newer version. And as far as maintenance, we have a SCADA analysis and instrumentation technician within the water plant that they are trained and they know as far as operation of that system to maintain it.
So they are trained to be able to maintain this. Is that what you just said?
Yes, sir. We were maintaining those system before. And the reason that we need to follow the migration right, from manufacturer is there are no longer parts available for replacement. So we need to migrate it to the new technology by manufacturer recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
To put it in a less educated way, we have, what we're currently using is no longer accessible to be able to get parts for it. So we have to migrate to what is the next version of it. So this is the expense that's going towards to be able to do that. But if we have the staff to be able to handle and use that, that's what they're comfortable using. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, there's that uneducated explanation. Anyone else from the public any comment on this item? Yes, ma'am, come on up.
I'm glad that
No, that's okay, it's coming up to the mic.
Lucia Del Trio, 707 North Shore Drive. Since they're here, I have had this question for a while. It's not related to the IO, but it's related to the quality of water.
Okay.
Is it okay to ask a question?
No, it's not, but I'm gonna ask you a question. What was your question you were gonna ask regarding the quality of our water? Will this help our quality of water?
I think so, because when I was going to nursing school, and I actually did a paper on our city water, which is excellent, and I love the whole thing that was from it. That was years ago. And one of the studies I've been doing is on fluoride, how it's actually poisonous to swallow it. And what they're trying to do in some cities and states is to use it locally, like just on your mouth and throwing out, but drinking it is actually becoming to be known as a poison. Is there anybody that ever did a study on that?
We can talk to you about that afterwards, if that's all right. We want to stick to the
That's all
subject
right,
matter,
yes,
if that's
but thank you
okay.
for letting me ask this.
No.
I think that's very important.
We can talk to you about it afterwards for sure.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else from the public on this item?
Yeah.
Hi, Adam Manachi, 1750 Southeast Court, Deerfield Beach. So this is my first town hall meeting I've ever been to in my life. So it's interesting and educational. So this, 792,000 expense. My other question is, how much do you research competitors of this company and other towns that do this, that need this? Do the other towns, and they pay the same price? Just how much research goes into the cost? That's all.
Okay, I'll get that question answered for you. Anyone else from the public? I'm gonna go ahead and close it to the public. Mr. Santucci, you want to answer that question since you used to be in purchasing as well?
Thank you. I'll try to keep it high level. This is what we call a sole source procurement, meaning that unlike your vehicle where you might be able to trade out any component of a car with some aftermarket part, this is vastly different because this is a Siemens technology run water plant system, and the PLC controllers need to be replaced with the Siemens components in order to work properly. Otherwise, you'd have to replace the entire system, or as my example was, the entire car. AWC is the only authorized vendor to supply, install, and service that system in this region of Florida. So for that reason, that's why this vendor has been chosen. And we do work with that vendor to negotiate costs and necessity of work and the scope of work that needs to be completed.
I can say pretty much with anything that we do when it comes up with our purchasing department, their job is to go out, look what other cities are paying, what the market is, what else can be used. And there's also usually competitive bidding, depending on what the circumstances are. But in this particular case, none of us are real happy about sole source. We don't like being stuck with only one option, but in this particular case, in others, sometimes it's the only option that you have. Mr. Grosky.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, not only do we not, relish the sole source opportunities when they come up, but this is needed. I mean, this is no small piece of equipment that we're talking about here. I mean, this is a very very large panel that we're talking about. And I mean, I've seen it in our water plant, and think about the best analogy that I can use is think of the old Atari Pong game where you had the paddles on each side with the ball bouncing back and forth. That's basically what we have now. So it needs to be upgraded. So it's no small piece of equipment. The size of this dais or bigger, it's big.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? We'll close it to the public commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by the vice mayor, second by Commissioner Clausen. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Morales,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Mayor Lance.
Yes.
Item number 15 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving an agreement with Johnson Lofts Construction LLC through the Sourcewell Inc. Indefinite Quantity Construction Agreement IFB number FLR10 GC 11111821 JLC for repairs and alterations to Fire Station 102 in the amount not to exceed $366,258, providing for execution and an effective date.
Anyone from the public here to comment on this item? Yes, sir.
My name is Daniel Shanetsky. My address is 34 Keswick B, Deerfield Beach, 33442 in Century Village. I'm in agreement to this resolution. I think it's great that we're providing repairs and alterations to Fire Station 102. But I also want to advocate for Fire Station 66, which is at 590 South Power Line, which is right adjacent to Century Village East. This station is very, very antiquated. It's very, very cramped. In May, they commissioned a new state-of-the-art fire truck. It was a big ceremony. In fact, city manager David Santucci was there. It was a beautiful state-of-the-art fire truck, but it's like putting new shoelaces on an old, cramped, worn pair of shoes. I'm sure this is federal funding, infrastructure funding. I advocate to the commissioners to please enlarge, modernize Station 66. Especially we're getting a lot of new construction. We have the Sandpoint community, which is right adjacent to Century Village. It's still being built. And if we have Southwest 10th Street Connector Highway, we'll need a bigger facility, a bigger station facility to provide emergency services. God forbid there's an accident or something. So again, with this money for 102 Fire Station, I think that's great. But I really think it's imperative to also look to try to get some money for Station 66 at 590 South Power Line Road in Deerfield Beach. I think it's a necessity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else from the public here to comment on this item? Not seeing anything, close it to the public commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Preston, seconded by Commissioner Parnas. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Morales,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
and Mayor Lance.
Yes.
Okay, it's my understanding that staff has a presentation that's going to cover items 16 and 17, so I'm going to read them both into the record. We will need separate votes on each item. Item number 16 is a resolution of the City Commission, City of Deerfield Beach, approving the award of invitation to negotiate 2018-1919 for advanced metering infrastructure AMI, authorizing execution of a negotiated agreement with the top-ranked responsible proposer, Core and Main LP, for the project in an amount not to exceed $4,993,186.10 with a 10% contingency, providing for implementation and an effective date. Item number 17 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending Section 70-133 deposits for water services and Section 70-134 charges for water meters, water meter installation, and taps and service lines of Chapter 70 utilities of the City Code of Ordinances, provide for water meter-related deposits and charges to be adopted by resolution, and to update the deposit return policy, providing for codification, severability, conflicts, and effective date.
Thank you. Good evening, Priscilla Segalme, Director for Environmental Services. Tonight, I'm here to give you an update on the advanced metering infrastructure project. We do have a selected contractor to provide these services, and tonight we're asking for you to approve that agreement. So just very quickly want to go over what the AMI system is. If you'll go to the next slide. Quick summary of the work that the contractor will be responsible for. They will be installing an integrated system of smart meters and a communication network to help us manage this data and communicate with our customers. So the total project will install meters, base stations. These base stations will be placed on our water tower and at the BSO station. And this is in order for us to cover the entire city and be able to remotely capture information on these automatic water meters, automated water meters. We will be hosted on a cloud network for this communication with these devices, and the contractor will be responsible for the activation of this hardware and software integration. In addition to that, part of their responsibility includes the notification to customers. We're going to be working on a web portal that will notify customers of where the contractor will be working next. We will be providing advance notice to all these customers, knocking on doors, et cetera, making them aware that when the changeouts will occur. Just FYI, when we do a meter changeout, it will take approximately about 2 hours to do the meter changeout. That means that we'll have to put a customer out of service for about 2 hours to perform that changeout of that meter. In addition to the responsibilities enumerated above, part of what we contracted this contractor to do is, by EPA requirements now, we are required to provide an inventory of all of our service laterals. And because they will be going into this meter box, they're going to be able to see the service lateral, see that material. And so they can easily capture that information for us and provide that inventory as part of the work. So we've included that in their overall scope. In addition to that, they're tasked with providing photographs of conditions, serial numbers on these meters, providing us with all that information, and GPS coordinates of where these meters are installed, so that we're going to have all of this information in a GIS map. Our staff will be trained. So once these meters are installed by the private contractor, should we have new development come in, we'll know how to go in and put in these meters moving forward with any new installations. Next slide, please. So this is what this overall network diagram looks like. That RF network, it shows that radio frequency signal that's sent out through the base stations that covers the entire city. This clouded network that captures this information, the various information that is captured, meter readings, etc. And so this will be real-time information that the customers will have access to. A lot of times you don't find out if you have a water leak until you get your bill. This is real-time data. You'll be able to see if you have a water leak in real time. Okay? You can see if your meter's running over what your usual usage is just by logging into your portal and seeing how much you're using. Next slide, please. The benefits, the automatic measure of water usage, capturing that accuracy of measuring water, also will lead us into how much water loss we have throughout the city, which is an important metric for us. We can connect and disconnect services remotely, so we know I will have to send somebody out to the field to do that disconnection service, which is the overtime that we pay for staff. We can detect tampering. If somebody is messing with the meter, we will be able to capture that information. We'll have this real-time data, as I indicated, to better detect leaks. We're also going to be replacing all of our infrastructure. So a lot of our infrastructure is aging. So this gives us all a new baseline, a new starting point. We have all new infrastructure with this project for meters. We'll have customer portal notifications, so we have that ability to communicate with our customers a little more in real time, a little faster, so we can make them aware when we are seeing usages that are a little out of line. And overall, this is going to reduce our maintenance and our operational costs. Next slide, please. So this is the propagation study that Core & Main put together. Core & Main is the awarded will be the awarded contractor on this project. And they indicate with these 2 installations of the base stations, this green that you see is the area of coverage. So as you'll see from this map, the entire city is covered with these 2 base stations, and we'll be able to capture the meter information of every meter installed within the city of Deerfield Beach. Next slide. The process of how we got to here, and my predecessor did initiate this project. It's been ongoing for a couple of years now. The city solicited formal competitive solicitations. The negotiation team recommended the negotiated agreement and best and final offer that was proposed by Core and Main. We sought ARPA funding for this initiative, and we have $3 million of indirect ARPA funding that will be directed towards this project. Next slide, please. And this is a table of what our, we can go back 1 slide. So the best and final offer is shown in the summary table. We have one-time costs that are shown, and then we'll have annual recurring costs. And this is a multi-year contract. So it's shown over the 3 years of the life cycle of this contract. We'll be replacing all the meters over this 3-year life cycle. And next slide, please. And finally, we're here to recommend to the City Commission the approval of this contract with Core and Main, which was the selected offer, and ask that you approve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do have a couple questions for you. Going back, just to reiterate, so when it comes time to read the meters, how is that being done, this system?
Yeah, it's automatic, so it's radio frequencies back to the base station. It automatically will
Is
provide.
it trucks driving through the neighborhood with the information picking that up?
Yeah,
or is
it's
that going
picking up
directly
from
to-
these base stations, from these
Okay.
2 located base stations, and
Okay.
hosted in this network.
So is the city's policy going to be that when we see these, because this is an issue that pops up in a lot of neighborhoods where residents will see their water bills start to escalate, and it could be due to a leak, it could be on our side, it could be on their side, but when we see that, we have the ability now to notify them and let them know that we're seeing some usage that they might want to be aware of.
Yes, we'll have we'll have that ability to do that much faster than we do today.
So while we'll have the ability, let's hope that we make sure we put a policy in place to make sure we're doing that. Because I know in areas like the Florida Keys, there's certain sections there, and certain areas there that, you know, there's so many vacation homes that when they see a spike or something's left on, that they're notified before they let this water go through. So I want to make sure we're doing that. That's one of the biggest impacts we can have on our residents.
Absolutely.
And putting the system in place. I saw this technology for the first time, 13, 14 years ago. So it's nice to see us finally catching up with the times of 13, 14 years ago. But it is improved. It's completely different than what it was originally suggested. So this is a lot more dynamic. So I appreciate that. Commissioner Preston. I don't like him very much. I'm good with you.
I will too.
Vice Mayor Hudak, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Couple questions. How safe from hacking is this network, first and foremost? You know, we have a lot of challenges out there. If you can talk a little bit about the safety of the network.
Yeah, we have these specific questions for Core and Main, and this hosted network is very well protected. And again, we do have that ability to shut off and turn on service, but beyond that, they're not going to have access. You know, that's just something that we'll have access to. We have access as far as meter reading, and all of this is going to be through our contract with Core and Main. So that's going to be a hosted network that they protect. So
The next question I have is, right now, if I've got a leak in the house, I know where to go out to my meter and I can shut it off, fix whatever I need to fix. Is this going to affect that, or do I now have to call the city and say, hey, turn my water off because I got a leak and I gotta fix it?
No, we, again, you know, there are valves still in place, so
Okay.
you'll be able to do a manual valve, but this allows us to shut the meter on, off and on, you know, remotely.
Okay,
It's just when we have that ability just to, you know, with the future.
Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is when you have something of this nature that this technologically advanced, in order to sell it to to the residents. We talk about the benefits which you listed. But we're never gonna talk about the other side where we may have some problems. So what could be anticipated as some problems that might come up? Maybe it doesn't look like we would have a lot of issues, but if there were issues, what would they be and how would we correct them?
I mean, I can tell you about some of the issues that we have today, just based on our style of meter reading. You know, some of the complaints that we get, you know, folks coming to read people's meters, jumping into their yard to read meters. Those are the common complaints we get today. We get away from that entirely with this advanced metering system, because now it will be remotely. You know, we can just, you know, see if this is the list that we're billing for this cycle. We can automatically go into the system, pull down the meter readings, and it's all electronic. So it's going to, the ease of reading meters, it's going to be added to our current process.
Are there any downsides to the technology that is anticipated?
No, the only downside I would say is that the cost of the meter has increased. You know, for a residential style meter, that cost has gone up. It's gone up for our mechanical meters as well, but it's, you know, it's a significant more cost for the electronic components associated with this. There is a warranty on parts. You know, one of the downsides could be if a register, you know, stops functioning on one of these meters, you know, there's a 5-year warranty on these. Hopefully, if that happens, it happens in that warranty period. But otherwise, you know, you're looking at having to do a meter replacement.
Thank you. Commissioner Drosky.
Thank you. Priscilla, I just want to quickly recap the funding mechanism for this. Is that it's a 3-year funding project. It's not 1 year. It's not a 5 million all at once. Isn't the first year, and I'm going by memory here because there's a lot of backup to this. Wasn't the first year is 3 million? I'm just going to use round numbers, 3 million from the American Rescue Plan funds, and then year 2 is $1 million, and that's from the utilities fund, correct? And then year 3 is another, or excuse me, year 4, yeah, year 3 is another $1 million from utilities, the capital utilities fund.
Year 1, fiscal year 22 that we're currently in right now is 1.5, and then in year 2, which would be our fiscal year 23 that we're going into in October, that would be a $2.3 million estimate ballparking right now. So between those two, we're significant amount of that is being paid for through the indirect ARPA funds. The balance of that will come out of the utility fund, which is an enterprise fund.
Okay, I'm just recapping. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hudek, another question.
I do, I apologize. So when these meters break, are there going to be alternatives to purchasing, or are we under another sole source situation like we are with the water plant?
So we're purchasing census meters. It's all part of a network of meters. You know, yes, we will be in a sole source for the census system. I can tell you that I moved here from Virginia, and we use these census meters in the town of Blacksburg. As the mayor indicated, I was there more than 10 years ago now. So those are the meters we use there as well.
Thank you. Mr. Santucci.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to address a couple comments, further elaborate. I want to just recognize that our CIO, Mr. McKenzie, was part of the negotiation committee to evaluate the network and security stability of the system. I want to also say that we are in a sole source situation today as we have standardized our meters, these older style meters, and the purpose for that sole source on your meters is from an inventory and maintenance perspective. That assists with your economies of scale and buyer large in quantities, getting discount prices and that sort of thing. Are there other meters out there? Yes, of course, but you can imagine going to a job site and having to guess which meter style manufacturer you're going to be dealing with when you get there. And so when we standardize, we do gain efficiencies in that regard. So in this particular case, that is why we want to sole source this particular item. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you. So the next presentation that I have for you, it kind of dovetails into this because we talked about how the meter pricing is increasing, and this is true of the mechanical meters that we're currently using right now, our Hershey, our older style meters. Those have all increased in cost, but these AMI meters, because of the electronic components, will be a little more than what we have been paying in the past. And one of the things that we wanted to address is our ordinances. Our ordinances are fairly old in our code. And so the established deposits and the established charges for installation of these meters, say a new development comes in, such as Toll Brothers, they want to install over 200 new meters. We have these very old ordinances in the books since 1995 and 2003, which really have not been updated to reflect our true costs for, the 3-man crew and the 3 pieces of equipment that go out there and spend 2 hours replacing a water meter or putting a water meter in for a new development. So one of the things that we wanted to do consistent with this change with the AMI is bring these ordinances up to date. So tonight we're proposing that we change our city code as far as section 7133, which is deposits for water service, and brings to a little more contemporary update that ensures payments owed to the city. The city refunds deposits once there's a closure of an account. And so we want to make sure that that's clear in this code, that it is only with closure of the account that we refund the deposit. Currently, per the old 1995 standard, we've been refunding deposits after 2 years. So what that ends up doing is, say a tenant's been there for 3 years, and in the 3rd year they stop paying the bill. Well, we no longer are holding a deposit to receive the funds owed to the city. So the slight change here in this ordinance is to ensure that the refund deposit only occurs at closure of the account. The other thing is the city does pay interest on these deposits, and this is established based on the average rate paid by the state of Florida Surplus Trust Fund. So that hasn't changed. And the basis for this cost that we're proposing today is to be consistent with, one, what the average costs are for typical residential bills, and to be consistent with Broward County as far as what they charge their customers for deposits. So what we're reflecting for less than 2-inch meter here is consistent with what metered customers in Broward County spend for any meter less than 2 inches. Above the 2-inch meter size, what we're proposing is a deposit paid in a sum that is consistent with the cost of that actual meter. Next slide, please. 7134 consists of the charges that we charge a new development when they come into the city and they want to put in a new water meter. Say they already have a service line that exists to a property, and so we don't have to put a service line in. All we have to install is the meter box and the meter itself. What we've estimated here is what our cost is for our equipment operator, our distribution worker, or maintenance worker, and our equipment to go out there and install this material, the meter box and the meter itself. And we estimate this takes a 2-hour, this is a 2-hour work order. And so that cost is shown in this proposed charge schedule that you see in front of you. So again, currently the current charges that are shown, again, these charges haven't changed since 2003, and they are not consistent with our real-time costs, which is our real operating costs for doing this installation. Next slide. And when it comes to be that we need to install an actual service line on a main, so say it's an all-new development, we have a main that's available for us to tap into. If we have to install the tap and the service line into that main, that's an additional cost of running a service lateral for that property. Then we assess the cost of the service lateral plus the water meter. And so those charges are shown in this table. Again, this is now assessed based on a 3-hour scheduled work order, as that's what we estimate it takes to do a service line at a minimum for anything less than a 2-inch. Just a side note, for 3-inch lines, we actually do that on a time and material basis. Anything above 2 inches, we do on a time and material basis and invoice the developer. Next slide. And so this last table represents the cost for what that would be if we are updating or upgrading, forgive me, upgrading in size. So say a home exists, that's a 1,500 square foot house. That home is demolished and it was on a 3/4 inch meter. And they come in and they put in a 5,000 square foot home. All of a sudden, you're going to upsize that meter. Well, up to a 1-inch line, we have a 1-inch service line in existence. And so up to a 1-inch line, there's no other cost except just the installation of the meter because the 1-inch line already exists. If they upgrade, if they make a larger home and we have to provide a larger service line, then we have to charge them the cost of a new service line installation plus a water meter. So that's the clarification in this table here, which just indicates if you're upgrading from, a small home to a very large home that requires a larger service, you're gonna have to provide, the cost for the additional new service line and that larger meter. Okay, next slide, please. And that's all I have for you this evening. But I'll take questions.
Commission, any further comments? Can open to the public. Gwen Clark-Reed.
Gwen Clark-Reed, 1430 Southwest 6th Way. I'm just wanted to know, are they going to change these meters at every household and put in a new meter? And what about the monitoring of the system? Is it a 24/7 monitoring of a system so that if a leak does happen at a residence, let's say, in the night, that they would know and be able to come out and fix it? Just how is it going to work?
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public? Any comments? Not seeing as we close it to the public. Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Willie Graham Bracy. With all these changes, I would like to know, are we gonna be access more fees? Because the senior citizen that live around here for 50-something years and we only own 50-something years. And we're gonna have to start paying more money for meters and being monitored, and they're gonna come out and cut the water off and you didn't know that they're cutting the water off. And I mean, like, I don't think it's gonna be fair for the senior citizen for them to do that, because we only live on a fixed income. And once we pay the bills now, we can't always make it.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Dean Callan, 3250 Southwest Second Court. I want to do a follow-up to Vice Mayor brought up about the networking side of it. It's secure, but how secure is it? What are the secure guidelines on it? Because any firmware can be hacked. We've seen that throughout our country. What also are the safeguards if the infrastructure goes down, we lose power to it, the backup side of it? What if there's a glitch in the system? How does that shut down or activate the water? If waters are shut off, or does it shut down everyone's water at one time? What are the ramifications of any type of storm coming through something like this? We're dealing with networking, we're dealing with cloud-based stuff, we're dealing with wiring, and we're dealing with components that go bad. I know this because I work with them, and I've seen them go down. And what it does, it creates a bigger problem. A mechanical device is not going to fail electronically. An electronic device can be tampered with, and it has that type of ability. So to your question, what are the safeguards? Are we really reviewing that to make sure that we're addressing all the safety issues on it? Then no one can just come in and also tamper with by having someone else build Risen or Lesson or whatever, because they have the ability to build this, through a computer to do this, which people sit there and do that day and night. So those are some of my concerns with it. We're spending a lot of money on something, but just to be told that, oh yeah, we have safeguards. I'd like to know exactly what they are and how we're going to make sure they're secured, where they're going to be set up, that it's in a secure location for it, like we're going to need for an infrastructure that goes throughout our complete city.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public? I'm going to close it to the public. Can we get the first question responded to? Gwen Clark-Reed. I know how this is all going to work.
Sure, I'd be happy to address that. And just to clarify, when the, yes, every meter will eventually be switched out over this prospective 3-year period. The charges to the residents for the change as it relates to the AMI initiative, there is no charge to the customer. The City Commission did approve a utility rate increase recently. I can't guarantee that you'll never see a utility rate increase again. Rates and fees and costs do go up, and we need to maintain the utility enterprise fund moving forward. But this does not, in and of itself, result in an increase for you, as it was stated. The majority of this is being funded through the American Rescue Plan funding. A smaller portion, probably 35–40%, is being funded through the utility fund over the course of 2 years. The reliability of this system, as it's been mentioned both by the mayor and the Director of Environmental Services, this is technology that has been in place for well over between 10 to 15 years. So the reliability of it is there. I've never heard of, nor am I aware of any catastrophic failures of systems that are in place. And the vendor that we have chosen shows a high reliability rate, showing really no failures in systems that I'm aware of. As it relates to the reliability of this system, opposed to a mechanical system, I will tell you that even the mechanical meters that we do have today, they do fail. However, we don't find out that they fail until they're out there being tested, because we only look at these meters on a monthly basis. And even in those cases, sometimes the meter doesn't have a complete fault. It might have a slowdown or something along those lines, which we find it very hard to detect. So with this new system, we will be able to monitor it in real time. To answer the other question, we won't know immediately that there is a leak in a house. It's not going to have that. It's not going to know that a leak occurred. What it will be able to detect is higher usage, and there's thresholds that are determined within the system to ping both the city and the resident to say, hey, we have detected a higher usage than normal. And so it's no longer going to be a situation where it shows up on the bill. It could have been leaking for weeks on end, or however long, a month, or whatever the case may be, if the resident maybe isn't home. And it's always a surprise to the resident that there may be a leak on their side of the line. So, and in terms of specificity related to network security, those are not details that we would release. Utility infrastructure is exempt from public record, especially the network security aspect of that.
Can you explain maybe a little bit about how, if there's a power outage, how that works, what is feeding the ability to have these meters communicate?
These meters are all on battery, so they're all battery operated. So it's not, they're not tied into any electrical grid network.
No, how long is battery last time?
Excuse me, we're not going to play that game. If you have a question, you can raise your hand, but we're not going to speak for the thing. If you want to come up one more time and ask your question, go right ahead.
My question is on the battery backup that we have for each meter. How long does the battery actually last? Because if we're without power for a storm for a week at a time, is a battery a week-long battery? I mean, we have to have some semblance of what we could possibly have here. So the warranty, she was mentioning the warranty on the battery is 20 years, that's fine.
Your question is what?
My question is, what is on the battery, what is the backup of the battery on for?
Okay, thank you.
On an alarm system, if it's an hour, then it's an hour. How long are these batteries for?
Okay, thank you. Yes, so.
So within the warranty period, what would happen is the same thing that would happen with your current meter. If something malfunctions, we take it out, we get it we get rehabilitated and put it back in. So that's what we do with mechanical meters. That's what we'll do in the future with these AMI meters. So they're all, again, they're under warranty. We take them back to the manufacturer under warranty.
So if the battery fails, the battery fails.
And we put in another meter.
Right. So it's not a matter of electronics supplying if the power goes out. It's a matter of a battery backup. Battery fails, the battery fails.
Right.
Okay. And all that means is what? What happens when the battery fails?
We change out the meter.
Okay, now what happens to the functionality of the water going into the house if the
Nothing, because we change out the meter once we get immediate notification that your meter's broken, because we no longer get a read off of it. So we
okay,
would
so
be,
you know immediately that something, so
something's wrong.
let's take his scenario. So if we have a storm and there's an issue and we have failure, obviously if there's a storm, it doesn't mean every single one of them is gonna go out. And if the flooding's that bad, if we have that kind of issue, I have news for you, we have bigger problems than that. But I would imagine that there's gonna be scenarios, let's say we have a storm and it goes out. What happens with the functionality of that meter when it breaks? Is it something that's like, that operates the way it does?
it's not gonna stop the operation, it's gonna stop the reading of your meter.
Okay, so the worst case scenario is you wouldn't be charged for water at the time it's not working.
Yeah,
Okay, but it won't stop the functionality.
and water's still passing through the meter, we're just not capturing that information. The whole purpose of this is to capture the data, how much water you're using. Doesn't stop.
Thank you.
The water.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Hudak?
And that's all I wanted clarification on. If the power goes out, it doesn't mean that your water stops. It just means that we cannot read the amount of water that you're utilizing. The water will still go. If the water tower that this thing is on goes down and they can't communicate with the network, it doesn't mean that the flow to your house goes out. It just means that we don't have the ability, or the city doesn't have the ability to read the amount of gallons that you're using. It won't stop the flow of water to your house. It'll just stop our capability to go ahead and read those until the power comes back on or we replace the battery. Is that accurate?
This system is designed and the setup is designed to increase efficiencies and improve service for our residents, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you asked about shutoffs, will shutoffs happen immediately? Yes, shutoffs will happen immediately, but also turn back on service will happen immediately. We look at the situations we have now where someone hasn't paid their bill, it gets shut off, it takes someone, yes, to drive out there, shut off the water, and they leave. That's how most people find out that their water is shut off, even they should know if they haven't paid their bill. The scenario, and now the scenario is they come in and they pay their bills at the end of the day. We have to call somebody off hours to see who's available to go out there to turn their water back on. Usually it's, we say that it's a next day type of service, but because water is so essential, we make sure we get someone out there at that time. There's usually a delay when that happens. This will make sure that it happens at the exact time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commission?
Motion to approve 16 and 17.
Well,
Sorry, Vice Mayor, we just need separate votes on each. So if you could start with item number 16, which is the AMI contract with Core Main.
Motion to approve 16.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Hudak, seconded by Commissioner Preston. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas. Commissioner Parnas,
He's trying to. Or he's waiting. I'm not sure which. You see to unmute yourself, Commissioner.
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hudak,
Yes.
and Mayor Dan.
Yes.
Now, item number 17 is the first reading of the related ordinance.
Motion to approve item 17.
Second.
Motion and second. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hudak,
Yes.
and Mayor Dan.
Yes.
Item number 18 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 98 Land Development Regulations of the City Land Development Code by amending Section 98-71 Lot Regulations and section 98-87 docking and mooring facilities regarding the minimum elevation and lighting requirements for docks and maximum width of seawall caps, providing for codification, severability conflicts, and an effective date. This is first reading.
Good evening, Eric Power, Director of Planning Development Services, City of Deerfield Beach. Let's go to the next slide. Tonight's item might sound a little familiar. If you recall, back in January, this commission approved a code amendment to section 9087, docks and mooring, which was derived from the county requirements for seawall elevation change, and we took the opportunity to revise the entire code section to meet the requirements of that. The most important thing that occurred from the seawall requirements was that seawalls must meet an elevation of 4 feet by the year 2035 and 5 feet by 2050. You go to the next slide. Since that time, the county has decided they wanted to make a little policy change, and we had in our code what was recommended to do was also ensure that docks, which are adjacent to seawalls, meet the minimum height requirement of 5 feet. And they have made this change in which they're saying that we will allow a dock to 4 feet, provided that it can be structurally shown to be 5 feet by 2050. So we are now adopting the code that the county has. So you can see in the highlighted section there, a dock constructed prior to 2035 shall be 4 feet, provided it can meet the requirements of 2050. So a property owner can come into the city now with a dock at 4 feet. Previously, we was telling them 5 feet. So that really is the crux of the change that comes tonight. Just again, we want to hear what the county is doing. But like all things, when a code amendment comes forward, we take the opportunity to review it and evaluate it one more time. So we did make some minor changes. So next slide. Very minor changes. Of course, we had to amend the 4-foot section in other places of the code. We did create a new definition of upland stem wall, which we added to the section 9071 lot regulations for consistency. We did clarify dock lighting slightly to make it words that are actually found. If you're going to Walmart looking for the lights, it's actually the words on the box kind of thing. So it's not difficult. And then also just we increased the seawall cap from 30 to 42 inches. That isn't that was a really request that came from an engineer to have a different type of material for piling. At the end of the day, the projection into the waterway cannot change. So it doesn't necessarily matter if the seawall width changes, because the overall projection into the waterway can't change. So we made that change. Just go to the next slide, please. There's also a small change to section 9071 lot regulations, where we just made some changes to those definitions and added a similar definition. So there's just consistency in our code. It's always nice when our code sections say the same thing. So, and with that, that's it. It was a minor change. We are just trying to keep up with the county. Any questions?
Thank you very much. A nice job with simplifying it to make it easy for people to understand when they're trying to go out to big replacements. So excellent job. Commission.
Motion to approve.
Well, before we get there, I'm going to open it to the public, if that's all right, Commissioner. Anyone from the public care to comment on this item? Not seeing any, I'm going to close it to the public. We have a motion from Commissioner Parnas.
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Hudak. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Morales,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
and Mayor Haynes.
Yes.
Item number 19 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 98 Land Development Regulations, Article 4 Supplementary Regulations by amending Section 98-104, Separation Requirements for Alcoholic Beverage Establishments of the city's Land Development Code to permit package stores, businesses that are not considered alcoholic beverage establishments who wish to sell alcoholic beverage on site to submit applications to the special master for a variance subject to conditions from the distance separation requirements, providing for codification, severability conflicts, and an effective date. This is first
Thank you, Eric Bauer, Director of Planning and Development Services again. So this is a little bit more complicated than the last one. I just want to spend a quick moment to explain. City staff has been presented with a few businesses that have come forward to the city that don't share the same rights and privileges that they would share if they were in another area of the city. So I want to explain a little bit further. A lot of businesses today are finding reasons to bring alcohol into a part of their business model. Painting with a twist, nail salons, barber shops, axe throwing, bowling alleys, all these types of situations in which you would not consider that to be a bar or an alcoholic beverage establishment, but they do serve alcohol. And the city of Deerfield Beach has a very strict definition, which is in front of you now, about what makes an alcoholic beverage establishment. And essentially anything that serves alcohol, that becomes the primary. You are now an alcoholic beverage establishment, and you're treated to the exact same regulations that a bar or a package store might be treated with. And that means there are distance separation requirements. It's 1,000 feet for any other alcoholic beverage establishment, school, house of worship, children's center, things like that. So what we'd like to do, and there's two different scenarios here that are part of a variance, is to carve out certain situations in which, what's a duck? A duck is a duck is a duck. Is this really what we're trying to regulate? And essentially that business would have the opportunity to submit a variance, administrative variance, that would not go to the city commission, would actually go to the special master, administrative variance go to the special master. And they could submit an application to the Planning and Development Services Department for review. And as long as they meet the requirements that I'm going to discuss here in a second, they can take that item before the special master. The special master can then determine whether or not they should receive that variance, and then they can potentially sell alcohol after the process. So we just go to the next slide. And there are two different scenarios that I'll discuss separately. The first is package stores, and the second is what we were just talking about, use the sale of alcohol. It's not primary use. So the next slide. So when we're talking about package stores, you can think about the liquor store in the strip plaza. You can think about the bar that might also sell alcohol you can take home. But in reality, what's recently been occurring as far as liquor stores and package stores are concerned is that large box retailers and grocers have gotten into the liquor store game. So you've obviously seen the Publix that has a liquor store right next to it. You've seen the Target, you've seen the Walgreens, they have a liquor store next to it. You see large liquor store franchises such as Total Wine and More or Crown Liquors. And the city is in a situation where if, say, a Publix is within 1,000 feet of a church, they would not be able to open up that adjacent liquor store that they want to have. So the city would like to have, again, this administrative variance opportunity where these types of establishments can apply for a variance if in fact they are within 1,000 feet of one of the situations. So as an example, I'm a Publix, I'm not within 1,000 feet of a church or another alcohol beverage establishment or school, they don't have to apply for this variance. But if they are within 1,000 feet, they would be prohibited from operating, and they can apply for this variance in order to operate. So those conditions are basically in front of you. A package store is solely owned and operated by a retailer grocery store, which shares a common wall with the alcoholic beverage establishment, and the retailer grocery store has a floor plan, which is greater than 5,000 square feet. Or the package store has a floor plan greater than 3,000 square feet, and it's not permitted to sell alcohol for consumption on site, which essentially prohibits a bar that also operates as a package store. Go to the next slide. Just some photographs to kind of give you an example of what we're talking about. As we just mentioned, these are the types of retailers that this particular variance would allow to occur. And the next slide, please. So the next type of variance, again, is for those types of businesses where alcohol really isn't the primary use, but they like to serve alcohol. So again, the variance requirements would be that the sale of alcohol is for on-site consumption as accessory to the primary use of the business. The sale of alcohol will not precede or exceed the hours of operation, and the business not permit customers to bring their own alcohol, which is called the bottle club. If you go to the next slide, you'll see photographs. Essentially, what we are trying to allow, these types of retail establishments. And if you go to the next slide, that's it. Okay. have any questions, comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who care to comment on this item? Not seeing any, I'm going to close it to the public. Commissioner Drosky, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. First of all, axe throwing and alcohol, there's nothing that could possibly go wrong with that combination. In the backup, is the denial of the variance by the special master the end of the road? Because sometimes there's an appeal to
There is, yeah,
the
so
commission.
the code section for the special master would still continue, which allows for appeal.
So the section that it references, the 98-116, provides for the, is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Right. So it's embedded in that.
The remedies are the same.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
So essentially, I was at a business over the weekend, and 3/4 of the property is childcare, and the second part is a business that he wants to open. If he decides to open up this axe and ale, this would allow that.
So it would be prohibited by code, and he would have the opportunity to apply for a variance that then the special master could determine to grant or not grant based on the condition.
And how do they make that determination?
So based on the code criteria that they have to meet that we just discussed,
Right.
and then any other circumstances that may be involved, with an application to the special master administrative variance, similar to what you do here, everyone within 500 feet is notified. There is a mailing, so the public is made aware, the adjacent property is made aware, and staff might bring forward any particular concerns or issues to that.
This is an excellent way to allow common sense to be applied, which is rare in government. So thank you. Appreciate that. Looking for a motion. Did you guys support it or not? Anybody support it?
Yeah, I do.
You do support it? You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. But
Okay.
before the motion, if I may, we have a law, you can't serve alcohol within 1,000 feet of either a church or a synagogue, am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes.
Well, good. Well, let me ask you a question. If my synagogue holds a Seder, they serve wine at the religious ceremony. I don't understand then the reason for the law. Why is it that my temple can serve wine during a ceremony, but my next door neighbor has to be 1,000 feet away or he's in violation of the law? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I don't know about other religions, and
Well-
there may be wine used in other religions.
Yeah, there
So-
is. We're gonna let Mr. Power answer your question, Commissioner, if that's all right.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Commissioner Press, religious institutions are exempt from this particular regulation.
Why?
So in the definition of what creates an alcoholic beverage establishment, religious institutions are not mentioned. There is no sale of alcohol for the religious institution. When you receive sacramental wine, that's not a sale.
Okay, so if I had a restaurant and gave away a free beer with a pizza and I were within 1,000 feet of a church, I'd be violating the law.
So in this definition, restaurants are exempt from this requirement. Bars are not, and there's a definition that explains the difference between bars and restaurants.
Understood. Okay. I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, Commissioner Drosky? We're looking for a second. Yeah, your button push.
Sorry, I was just getting some clarification. So when, maybe this will help my, the vice mayor. So I understand his concern that if you had the scenario that you threw out, that there was a child care center, I think you said that And then there was, a portion of that, could that be turned into serving alcohol or whatever? And let's say that that was approved by the special master. Well, there's nothing in the ordinance now, so a denial can be appealed, but the granting cannot be appealed. So I think I'd like to add that, or at least have the city attorney look at it. This is first reading, right? So that the city would be able to have the opportunity to appeal maybe a bad ruling that we get that would rectify or clarify the situation I think that you're looking for. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I mean, if it's not in there, they can't apply for it. I mean, I don't have a challenge with the package store and I mean, the first section of it. The challenge I have is having all of these other establishments popping up all over the place, selling alcohol all over the place. Then again, if it's near schools, if it's near churches, I'm just not sure that that's what we want.
I mean, I guess we'll have to go back and forth here, maybe cut us off when you want, but I mean, I would tend to be business friendly and say that Deerfield is open for business and that we want to be, have that business friendly environment here in Deerfield Beach. And if there is something that we don't like, then what I'm proposing is to give us that ability to nix it then, and say, hey, maybe this isn't something that we do want, and give the city the ability to appeal it to the commission to reverse that approval. Right now, you can only appeal a denial. What I'm proposing is to add to this ordinance now, and we'll deal with the special magistrate ordinance later, the larger one, the 98-116. We'll deal with that later. But for purposes of tonight in this ordinance, to give the city the ability to appeal a granting of a variance that maybe upon second look isn't what we want, which is your scenario.
Well, I think this commission has proven to be business friendly. There are certain businesses that we determine medical marijuana distributors, as a matter of fact, that maybe we have enough, or maybe that's something that we don't want over throughout the city. And this is my concern of these types of establishments. Okay, now you're gonna serve alcohol to get your hair cut. You're gonna serve alcohol to throw your axes. You're gonna serve alcohol while you're getting your dog groomed. So you're gonna have all of these types of businesses popping up all over the place. And I'm not sure that that's what I'm not in favor of that, let me put it that way. Especially when you have this establishment over Power Line in Hillsborough. You're gonna have it in that shopping center when you've got Quiet Waters Elementary right next to it. Is that something that is appealing to you?
How many restaurants do we have over there that serve alcohol? How many restaurants do we have over there across the street from it has that? What this is a common sense approach. If someone does that, doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to do that. It just changes the type of business that they're recognized as. Is that correct?
That is correct. Just as a quick point of clarification, any business that's a commercial business is allowed to sell alcohol. It's only when they're within 1,000 feet of one of these institutions, the city says no. So as an example, there are properties within the Cove, right? The Cove Shopping Center that has a nail salon that serves alcohol. However, if that same property was in the Publix Plaza that's just a little west, the answer would be you can't do it because you're within 1,000 feet of St. Ambrose Church. So would you tell a Painting with a Twist or a Nipsey's nail salon that they can't be within a public shopping plaza because there is a church within 1,000 feet when you are permitting it in the Cove Shopping Center? So that's the rationale that we're trying to take, because there are situations where the code is so prohibitive, we're not allowed to allow these retail uses to be within the location they want to be in when they are permitted to be in other places.
This isn't opening up Bacchanal. What this is allowing us to, on a case-by-case scenario, apply some common sense to a very strict ordinance that, quite frankly, could use some common sense. Commissioner Drosky.
I'd like to ask my colleague from District 3 if he just accept a friendly amendment to his motion to approve to instruct the city attorney to add language giving the city the ability to prove to city commission the city to appeal to the city commission and approval if it deems it's not in the best interest of the city.
I will accept that.
I will second the motion.
Okay, before I ask for a roll call, and ask Commissioner Preston gives the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, when we have this sort of, a situation, there are challenges with how this is interpreted. On one hand, we have actually businesses that are already doing this, and then we say if they're in a certain within 1,000 feet, then they can't. And my colleague actually has some good points. So what I was going to say, the motion has been seconded. I was going to ask my colleagues, was it possible to table this item, because I agree with the mayor. Actually, this is kind of something that requires common sense. However, I have some challenges with it too, and if it could be tabled so that whatever information that we come up, my colleague can be clear with it, it may help it. If we just go through with this, and certainly we don't always have to agree, that's understood. But maybe with some additional information, it may be easier to rationalize and put it in place.
But keep in mind, this is first reading. That's true.
That's true.
So, okay, this is a matter of just moving the ball forward.
That's true.
If there's any issues,
Thank you.
they can live or die.
That's true. That is true. This first reading.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Juarez,
Yes,
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
No.
and Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're now in comments by administration and legal. I have no additional comments tonight.
Just a few things. We'll like to bring forward an item to the city commission to discuss. We talked a little bit earlier about the target area. And when the target area was created, it was created at the time before the city received the annexed area, the unincorporated Broward County area. And so we'll bring an item before the city commission to discuss the target area in general and how the city commission might want to expand the existing target area to include some other areas in the city that could probably use some additional, just say, attention to TLC. I also want to talk to, just mention some of the issues we've been having with streetlights. I recognize that significant amount of streetlight outages. In most cases, these are not simple fixes. For instance, we've had some underground electrical issues on Hillsborough and Federal that I'm happy to report that today, as I was driving around, we did have the crews out there who were making those replacements. I saw several of those lights fixed, so I was very happy to see that. But there are, as we all know, global impacts with supply chain, and the lighting industry has been hit very hard. So both us and FP&L, and FP&L is responsible for a lot of our lights that we do report in. All around, there's just been a slowdown, and we do recognize the safety concerns that creates, not only for pedestrians, but for vehicles as well. And we're working as expeditiously as possible to resolve those issues. And we've seen some progress here lately that I'm very pleased to see. Those are all my comments for this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now on city commission business. This is the last item for tonight. Item number 20 is an ordinance of the city commission of the city of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending chapter 50 Parks and Recreation, the city code of ordinances by creating section 50-115, smoking prohibited, to prohibit smoking at public beaches and public parks, providing for codification, severability, conflicts, and an effective date. You may recall, we discussed the bill that made it through the last legislative session for years. The state law has preempted local governments from restricting or further restricting smoking within their jurisdictions. There's been bills over the course of several years that have eventually died, but this year a bill was passed that went into effect on July 1st of this year that allows local governments to regulate smoking in municipal city beaches that they own and also in public parks within their jurisdiction. So I know Commissioner Drosky is sponsoring this item, so I'll allow him to elaborate or speak to it. The ordinance before you does prohibit smoking within the municipal beach and public parks within the city's jurisdiction. I can answer any questions.
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Parnas.
Yeah, I have a question. Let us assume we pass an ordinance prohibiting smoking on our beaches. What about the beaches we don't own? I understand there are still a few that we do not own. How do we restrict them there? Do we say on this line you can smoke and over here you can't? How do we solve that problem?
Thanks for the question, Commissioner. So we do, the preemption from the state is still in place, but they did, carve out the city's ability to regulate smoking on public beaches. And so that you do have that authority should the city so choose. With respect to private beaches, it would be just state law. We would have to go to the state for that. The state would have to regulate with respect to private beaches. They didn't, it's specific to public beaches.
Okay.
I don't see these lights on, so I'll go comment on this. I can tell you this is something that's been talked about for years with people, sitting up here for over a dozen years. I've seen so many people come forward and ask for what they were hoping for was a non-smoking section of the beach. I don't think anyone ever expected they'd get to the opportunity for us to be able to have a ban entirely on smoking on the beach. One of the biggest pollutants we have on our beach, and anybody who's been to any of our beach cleanups will tell you, is cigarette butts. Our beach that's the majority of what our beach is, sadly, the cigarette butts. And everyone knows the health issues that come with cigarette butts, but here's the biggest problem, is our enforcement of this. This is going to be almost impossible to enforce. And I think in talking to the city manager, and this is a great point, this is going to be a lot like the seatbelt law. It's going to give, while we're not going to be out there being the cigarette police doing it, when we have incidents when it comes up, there will be the ability to apply a fine. But here's the caveat to it, which is why Tallahassee ticks me off, is they passed this through, but cigars are allowed. They got carved out nicely. Rumor has it that apparently the person that sponsored it got this through is good friends with a major cigar company in Tampa. So somehow cigars got allowed. So it's very frustrating with something like this, because you've got something that's going to be hard to enforce, and now you've made it even more ridiculous. Because can you imagine going to somebody and ticketing them for having a cigarette and somebody smoking a cigar right next to them when they're allowed to do that? So this is where our hands get tied by Tallahassee. It's very frustrating. Look, I would like to see this happen in some way. I just don't know how we can enforce it. I don't like putting things in place that are impossible to enforce. I will say that I think the backlash you're eventually going to get from smokers probably won't overwhelm us compared to the people who would really want to see this ban in place, but we could be surprised by that. So if we're looking to do the entire public beach as non-smoking, okay, but it's going to be very, very difficult for us to enforce. And Mr. Preston, the Vice President, or excuse me, Vice President, Mr. Preston Drosky.
I echo your sentiment very much. Another thing is filterless cigarettes you're able to smoke. So it depends on the cigarette you're smoking too. If your cigarette has a filter, you're not allowed to smoke it. If it doesn't have a filter, then you can smoke it, just like cigars. And is that accurate, Mr. City Manager?
I'll take this one. Just a point of clarification, just to make it a little more confusing for you from what the legislature did. So they said you could regulate smoking within your jurisdiction except for unfiltered cigars.
Correct.
So you can regulate filtered cigars
And filtered.
if they have a filter, but if they're unfiltered, so picture like those big cigars that don't have the,
Or a
the cap
Camel
on the back.
cigarette that doesn't have a filter.
I'm sorry?
Or a Camel cigarette that doesn't have a filter.
The carve out is specific to unfiltered cigars. It doesn't say unfiltered cigarettes for clarification.
So cigarillos that have the,
Right.
yeah, those are banned, but if you have a regular stogie,
Right. Thank you for the clarification.
Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that in a situation like this, we should strongly consider putting the ban in place for our residents. And it may be difficult initially to be able to police something like this, and maybe even long term. But the fact that it's there, one person on that beach will be able to say, did you know that it is illegal to smoke on the beach? And that after a period of time, as it passes through, you probably won't stop everybody every time, but I guarantee you will slow it down. But if we're looking at the fact that we have all of these butts on our beach, we know that that problem exists. And because it would be difficult to police it, we don't put the ban in place. That means that the problem won't get any better, it's gonna get worse. So I think we gotta put it in place. I'm for this, for the residents, to go out into, our beach is one of the things that we really promote and sell. And how can we recognize that there is an issue, there is a problem with cigarette butts, but that we ignore that. I think that the residents would appreciate the fact that at least their commission tried to do something to put something in place that would minimize to some extent, smoking on the beach and butts in the sand. And I would then ask the residents to help in that policing, that people know, I don't want people getting aggressive with you, but just letting them know in a friendly manner that it is not right. And it is against city ordinance to smoke on the beach.
Commissioner Drosky, and then Vice Mayor, or excuse me, then City Manager.
I mean, listen, we have to play in the sandbox that the legislature gave to us. And so
Well, litter box.
this is the option that we were given. And our beach is one of the gems that we have in our city. It's one of our economic engines. So to not protect it, I think is worse than than this ban and having the enforcement issues that we're going to have. I mean, I think all of us recognize that. We knew that before this ordinance even came up, that there were going to be enforcement issues. And every city or county that enacts this is going to have the same issues going forward. But I think, as Commissioner Preston correctly points out, that this is something that's going to take time. It's over time. I don't think we're going to. The one thing I don't want to see is I don't want to see a bunch of no smoking signs and put sign pollution up at our beach. Have no smoking signs every 5 feet. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see giving tickets to everybody out there at the same time. But by the same token, there's going to have to be a slow public education component to this over time, but not to protect our beach on an issue that this is a rare opportunity that we have from the legislature where they're deregulating an opportunity for us. So we need to take advantage of it, because who knows when this could go away. So are there issues? Of course there's issues with the enforcement, and we're going to have to deal with those going forward. I will point out to the city attorney that he has an egregious drafting issue with this ordinance that I noticed last night. The first line, smoking within the borders, and I think you need an of in there. So it's not egregious, by the way.
We'll address that.
For second reading. So I'm in favor of it. Is it perfect? No, but doing nothing, I think, is worse.
That's better than the typo in chapter here on our.
Actually,
agenda.
okay. The ordinance has chapter, correct?
Vice Mayor Hudak.
I'll second Commissioner Drosky's motion.
You know, it's not.
I know.
He hasn't made a motion yet.
I know. What is it?
Is this for consideration or is this actually moving forward with the motion to open to the public?
It is an ordinance. You are asked to take action, so I don't.
Yeah.
Open it.
Sure, absolutely.
Say
Anyone
my
from the
motion.
public here to comment? Santi, I'll get to you next. I apologize.
62 Centennial Court. And if the commission should come down on any side, it should come down on the side of freedom. This is like the biceps thing, dividing people into smokers and non-smokers, when your problem is litter. Your problem is litter, you all said it. You have a laws against litter? Because people who don't smoke can litter. People who smoke can litter too, yes, okay. But when eventually this issue of smoking and non-smoking, how some people are coming down on other people because they're good. Well, what about their freedom? They can't enjoy a park or the beach because of their habit, okay? Well, if you ban there, they can go on the street and a mother can push her little kid in a stroller and be 2 feet from somebody on a street who's smoking. And you shouldn't really do this haphazardly. There was a study that was done, and it was the only study I know of that answered any questions on smoking outside. And it was a Stanford study from Dr. Ott and Clevis. And it was published in the Journal of Air and Water Management Association in May 2007. And essentially, I don't want to go through the whole study, you get it, and bring it to you for sure. But essentially, they're talking about it's a matter of distance. You get a certain distance away from a smoker, and your pollution is no different than a car driving by you. And we have that all the time. Now, if you want to pass any ordinance, have a smoking section instead of no smoking. Yes. You can have a smoking section in a park, so someone could go outside and enjoy themselves. And if they, some smokers, they gotta have a cigarette every half hour. Well, they can go there, have their cigarette, and then continue walking in the park. The non-smokers who hate smokers can stay away from that section. That's a way of doing it in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Yes, I'm Marilyn Lucano, 2121 Discovery Circle, West Deerfield Beach. Yes, I'm an ex-smoker, and nobody smokes because they like it. They know it's bad.
No, come on now.
Well, they know it's bad,
Yes.
and yet they're addicted. So it's very, you have to give them some kind of like, why did the non-addicted people get to have all the privileges? Like, there has to be some kind of like, that it's not good. Now, saying you can't litter is very good. Littering is extremely bad. But to say that you can't smoke when you don't want to smoke anyway, you're addicted is, I don't know, I think it's sad. I praise God that I don't smoke. I quit, but I feel sorry for people that are still addicted, that they can't go to the beach or to the park. They'll suffer, because when you're addicted, you suffer if you don't have a cigarette. So, but they shouldn't have litter. So that's my, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public here to comment?
Yes, here I am. Patricia Lane, 252 Ventnor Ave, Deerfield Beach. I feel like when you bring your children to the beach and you're sitting there, all of a sudden a whole bunch of people come and they start lighting up cigarettes or cigars or anything. That's terrible. Then you have to look for a place to move. So I really don't think it is proper to smoke in the beach and smoke next to people when you're sitting on the sand 3 feet apart. So I do understand the ordinance, and I do understand that would be hard, and I am an ex-smoker. You know, this is not a good thing. If you are comfortable smoking and you can't smoke somewhere, then it's not easy to quit, but people have done it. It shouldn't be that we have to suffer breathing in this secondhand smoke in our children because they have to have a cigarette. Totally agree with your ordinance. And you've got children on the beach, and it's just as bad as having alcohol parties on the beach and getting drunk on the beach. So I'm
The
sorry.
difference is only one person gets drunk when you drink.
Yeah.
Next to you is
Right.
getting in the.
Right, but this affects children, babies. So I do agree with the ordinance, and I thank you for taking that into consideration.
Thank you, miss. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else from the public? And we'll try to see what's on our. Okay, Glenn. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Laura Ortiz. I live at 3500 Southwest Torres Boulevard. I just want to say, I think it would be wiser to designate smoking areas because there's too many restrictions in life. This is ridiculous. I don't smoke, but I think people should have the freedom to smoke. Not maybe on top of children and blow it all over, but I think most people have consideration.
No, they don't.
More effort should be put into perhaps stopping the vandalization in the communities and things like that, rather than restricting smokers on a beach, maybe an area at least to give them. This is ridiculous. America's getting to be ridiculous with their rules. And I don't smoke. And I'm bronchial. So, thank you.
Thank you. Gwen Clark Reed.
Gwen Clark Reed, 1430 Southwest 6th Way. Of course, this is the most ridiculous situation for us to be in, Mayor and Commissioners. I can just about assume who put this together and why it was put together because of the businesses that are owned by representatives in the legislature from certain areas. My concern about this whole thing is who is going to police the beach? Do we now have to have BSO on the beach? Or just who is going to police this activity of smoking if you restrict it? And how will it be handled? Do we now employ more BSO officers so we can have officers just assigned to the beach to give out tickets? Or, this is very difficult because most people go to the beach, they figure they're in the open air. If they want to smoke, just because you put a smoking section on the beach does not mean I'm not going to be affected by the smoke. You're on the beach, you're outside. This is a hard one. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Come on up.
Chris Marino, 1525 Southeast 14th Court. Again, this is a very difficult topic, but again, I believe that we might be over-regulating this area. I do agree with the mayor on the point that this is going to be very hard to enforce this. And now we're going to start to create fighting between people on the beach because the rule gets put in place. And now people are going to be arguing, complaining. It's going to be a nightmare. Now, at the same time, our marine habitat should be second to none. We need to pay attention to those beaches and our marine habitat, cleanliness there. I'm more for in this area a smoking section than the entire beach, and enforcement of littering may be taking a higher priority, and enforcement of cleaning our beaches in a better way a higher priority. But to try to make a rule that we're not going to be able to enforce doesn't sound very logical to me. There might be some way to bridge this gap somewhere in between the two, but our marine habitat has to be protected, and the pollution on the beach is not acceptable.
Thank you. If you think policing cigarettes is going to be hard, imagine policing where people put their cigarette butts. Think about that. It's very difficult. It's the easiest thing to hide, it's the easiest thing to go into the sand. So it's very difficult to kind of hit them from a littering standpoint on that particular small item. But it's just something to think about on that. Is there anyone else from the public? I'm gonna close it to the public. You know, like I said, I thought from the beginning to do the entire beach is pretty bold. So let's say we do a section. Where are you going to put it? Where would you put that section? You put it closer where it can be easily more monitored. So does that mean it's closer towards the central area of the beach, let's say the pier area? So what does that give us? Or do we hide it over to a different area of the beach? Now, I don't want to associate smoking with, you know, people that don't follow the rules, but you're going to have, you're probably going to have a lot of people congregate to that area. You want to talk about arguments? There are arguments on every. It's despicable the way people act in public now, and they think they have a pass to do it. What happens to our employees over on the beach for trying to enforce a rule, whether it be curbing a dog or not skateboarding somewhere, they're riding their bicycle, doing something completely stupid like vandalism. And the response we get from our staff trying to do that is disgusting. I disagree with you that people, for the most part, are trying to be, no, they're not. Go out in public for a little while, and I think your opinion would change. What our employees have to deal with on the beach is completely wrong. And to the point where racial epithets are yelled, it's disgusting the behavior of what people have turned to now. It's a real shame. No matter what rule you have in place, there's always going to be an argument if someone wants you to enforce it. Go to any one of our parks where dogs are off leashes. It's Broward County ordinance, not allowed to have dogs off leashes. Think about the arguments going in every single neighborhood where that happens. Happens all the time. So this is a tough one. To me, I am inclined to look at a section of the beach, meaning reserved for smoking, because I disagree that, oh, this is getting out of control and there's too many regulations and it's free will. We don't do it in restaurants. We don't do it in airplanes anymore. This is archaic thinking. All right. It's something that needs to be curbed, but eliminating it is impossible. I think allowing sections to have it makes sense to me, but what happens to those sections and where do you put it? It becomes problematic. Everybody thinks it's real easy. Everything's either black or white. Guess what? There's a lot of gray areas especially when you try to put something in place to enforce a law. Very, very tricky to do it. This is one of those situations. So if we're going to put a section of the beach that's allowed for smoking, I'd like to know where it's going to be and how we're going to enforce it, and think about the impact of what's going to happen. Are you going to put it closer to an inn that's right next to someone's home? Because we have sections like that. Are you going to put it close to a restaurant or business establishment? So now you have all the smokers congregating in one area. It's tricky. It's definitely tricky. I disagree with the idea that this is draconian, but I also think putting laws in place that can't be enforced are very difficult. It's going to have to be enforced the same way it always does. VSO will have to get involved. He might be smoking right now. You don't know. He might be on the beach. But, and you know, we've kind of teased Commissioner Parnas tonight. I want to say Commissioner Parnas is hospitalized. He's doing much better. We're glad to have him tonight. So Commissioner, please don't take that as a personal affront. Look, it's a very tricky rule to try to put in place. I'd like to see something done. I've sat up here long enough to hear enough people come forward and say they want this to change. But I can tell you all of them expected to have a section that would be non-smoking as opposed to a section that would be smoking. I think it's good that we would do it. We would reverse that. Because quite frankly, yeah, you have the right, and that's great to be able to smoke, but you don't have the right to interfere with me sitting on the beach with having smoke blown into my face. You don't have that right to do that. And that's what you get when you make the majority of the beach smoking a small section. non-smoking. I agree with flipping it, but I'd like to know where it's gonna go and figure out how we're gonna be able to enforce that. Because if they can't smoke on the beach, they're gonna go over to the walkway. As someone pointed out, someone going by the stroller or whatever, you got, every smoker's now gonna be on the beach to be able to smoke a cigarette. People who are addicted to it, it's not something they can easily just say, I'm not gonna do it. But go outside any restaurant where there's no smoking. Everybody's smoking outside. There's always a section. So, it becomes very tricky. How we do this, we're gonna do it wrong. I can tell you that, because there's no right answer to this one. We're gonna do it wrong. And we might have to make adjustments along the way. But what I fear is that we're going to do something, no matter what happens. I think we should do something. Is that our employees who try to enforce this are going to be open to a lot of belligerent behavior. And that's what is disappointing and concerning to me. But I think something needs to be done. Mr. Santucci, you've been waiting patiently. I apologize.
No apology necessary, Mayor. I want to thank the commission and the public as well for recognizing how difficult it will be to implement this. Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing how the reaction could be towards staff and enforcing this. And I appreciate recognizing that this will not be something that we can really enforce on in an active way. This will have to be done first through education, signage, maybe increased temporary signage at first. But what I also want to point out to the City Commission is that a lot of beaches are contemplating this. A lot of communities with beaches are contemplating this. And I want you to remember back when COVID hit initially, right around spring break of 2020. And we got news from the city of Fort Lauderdale that they were going to close their beaches. And what happened there is there was a domino effect, there was a ripple effect that occurred where everybody had to end up closing their beaches because you would have got squeezed into that population of everybody coming to your beach. And although this is a very, very new law being enacted on July 1st, so just a month that the legislature has allowed for us to do this, I do know that a lot of beaches are contemplating this. I don't know what they will ultimately end up doing, but just be aware that if there is that domino effect, one, I think it would help us in terms of just every beach and having that understanding from the public that beaches in South Florida generally, or at least in Broward County, Palm Beaches, whatever it may be, do not allow smoking on the beach. But you certainly, if you don't do anything and that happens, you would become the smoking beach. And I just want to put that out there for some understanding of what could potentially happen. That's all the comments I have.
Thank you. Let's go with Commissioner Preston, Wondrowski, and Parnas.
Thank you, Mayor. Something to consider, and we were talking about how the difficulties of implementing something of this magnitude. But I will tell you, there have been rules put in place, and you were saying about a section, Mary, a designated section. I can tell you, if you put a designated section on the beach, one shift in wind, you're gonna get people that's going to be just one shift in wind. And I've seen people in an area where they, you just having picnics or whatever, and the wind shifts and you smell it, you move, and the wind can shift again. So either we do this or we don't, because if you designate an area, invariably it will fail, because wherever you put it, the wind isn't always going to blow in one direction. That's just what's going to happen. So is this difficult in implementation? And it is. But guess what? There's a lot of things that has been good for its residents and good for its city and good for the country that the country did not necessarily want to do in a particular time, but it was the best thing for the country. Difficult as it was put in place. Look at it 10 years later, 15 years later, and it's not so bad.
Thank you. Commissioner Wondrowski.
Yeah, maybe I should have started the conversation this way. When proposing this ordinance the way that it's worded tonight, I mean, certainly alternative scenarios were debated and envisioned, and the effects of those and what could or could not come out. So there's a reason why, I'm proposing the outright ban, which is probably, for anyone that's come to the meetings, would think that I'm probably the last person on earth to propose a ban, because I am the anti-ban guy up here. I voted probably against every other ban that we've had, but you have to look at them all in a particular vacuum as to what we're trying to accomplish here. And I think the overall accomplishment is to decrease the smoking on our beach because of the litter that is on there. I mean, this was proposed, we don't get into partisan, up here. Someone brought it up earlier. But this was proposed by a Republican legislature, proposed by a Republican, signed by a Republican governor, two groups that you thought would be the last to enact a ban on smoking anywhere, let alone on public beaches. So the fact that we're given this opportunity, we need to take advantage of it, because they recognize that the cigarette butts on the beach, and I think it was the state senator that proposed this, or in the Senate, was saying that he's from I think Pinellas County, that walking on the Clearwater beach, he's tired of the butts, coming between his toes as he's walking on the beach. So I think this is a bipartisan issue that we have here. So the alternatives that we talked about when discussing this are exactly what the mayor said. Can you create a smoking area somewhere on our beach? But where do you put it? How do you designate it on our beach? How does people know where the designated smoking area is? Do you draw blue lines in the sand and say you have to stay within this area to smoke? Do you put it by the pier? Do you put it down by Hillsborough Beach? Well, maybe I'm onto something, but so where do you put it? And that's probably even more problematic to enforce than just the outright ban. At least with the outright ban, it gives us the opportunity in BSO to say, I'm sorry, this is a no smoking beach, you're not allowed to smoke. Whereas if we had a smoking area, well, I'm sorry, you're allowed to smoke, yes, but you have to go over here, you can't stand there. And I think that causes even more problems in enforcement than we're gonna have just with the ban. The other thing that the city manager was alluding to is what happens if you don't do anything? Then by process of elimination, as cities around us start to implement their bans, then the smokers are going to come to Deerfield Beach, and we're going to be known, whether we like it or not, as the smoking beach, and we're going to get that reputation. And then if we ban it, well, it's too late. We already have that reputation going forward. So to take no action, I think that's why I want to be out in front of this now. Can we tweak it? Of course we can tweak it, but to do nothing, I think would be a mistake. And I think we're all in agreement we need to do something, but I think it has to be the ban, only because it just gives us it's the best of the worst options that we have in regulating this going forward. Maybe the legislature will put in some tweaks, or maybe we can come up with our own, but to do nothing from the get-go, we need to get out in front of this. And that was kind of the logic as to why you have this particular ordinance written that you do, minus the O, before you tonight.
Commissioner Parnas? Commissioner Parnas, you're on mute. Commissioner Parnas, you're on mute. I don't know if you realize that or not. Thank you.
For many years, I was in the restaurant nightclub business in New York, and a heavy smoker. Well, one day the city decided no more smoking in restaurants. Restaurants associates had all kinds, but they're going to put us out of business. People won't come. Guess what? Business increased. There were more non-smokers that appreciated having a meal without somebody blowing smoke in their face. Was a lot more pleasant than allowing smoking. It worked. Now, I'm a sportsman. I love the American sport poker. And I play poker in one of the casinos. And guess what we were able to do? The whole casino, you can smoke, except in the poker room because we objected to it. We objected that while we were sitting there playing, people were blowing smoke in our face. So we went to them and they accepted the fact that we are good customers and they banned it in the poker room. It can work if we wanted to. Will it be difficult? Yes. Will we make mistakes? Yes. But if we want to ban smoking on our beaches per se, I think in the long run, you're going to increase the people that come to the beach. Because in this country, there are more non-smokers than smokers. And I think people, when they get used to the idea that if they come to Deerfield Beach, there'll be minimum smoking instead of maximum, will enjoy the beach more and will increase the people that come here. So I think it's worth trying. I think it's worth making the mistakes. I am sure that in the long run, we will find the proper mix and the proper solution, such as in the restaurants that don't allow smoking. They have outside bars and outside tables that do allow it. I often wondered why on Los Olas Boulevard, people sat outside with the cars going by. And I understood why, because they're smokers. The people inside are not. So it can work. We have to try. It may take us a while to get the right mix. And yes, I agree, we'll make mistakes, but it's worth the effort. For people's health, for the cleanliness of our beach, it's worth trying. And the legislature has given us an avenue, at least, to try.
Thank you, Commissioner Parnas. You know, again, I'll go back to the point. In every point that everyone who got up there to speak tonight, there's nothing that you said was completely wrong. Everybody had a good point and a point that I might not agree with, but everybody at least had a point that should be taken into mind here, because this is the way this type of argument is. You know, one great point that's made up also is we got to think about the marine life here, what that impacts. You can talk about, oh, let's crack down on littering. And by the way, we can do more than one thing. You know, just because we're focusing on this doesn't mean we're not talking about something else in the city. We're able to multitask. It's kind of a nice thing. But you know, we do have to think about that. And if you've ever gone to a beach cleanup, I'm telling you, what you would see, the amount of buckets that walk away with how many cigarette butts are in there is stunning. It's really, really stunning. And that's going to have an impact. And I don't care what kind of rate you have on there. You're going to be running it all the time, and no one's going to be able to lay out on the beach to keep up the amount of cigarettes out there. If you're going to put a smoking section in, where would it go? Well, most of the wind that comes here on our beach is what, east, southeast? Is that what it's coming out of? About right. Okay. It would have to be towards the north. So, you know, it's going to be tricky. There's not a lot of parking to the north section of our beach that I know of. That's a long haul to kind of hike out there to make sure you're going to smoke. If you're smoking, you probably can't make that hike. So it's kind of tricky. But I still lean towards the section. But that's just my opinion on one vote. I think we've exhausted talking about this, and we need a smoke break. We can take one. We need to make a decision on this here.
Yeah, let's take a cigarette break.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
He's slow to draw. He should have been fast. It's his
No,
fault.
I'll withdraw.
He's the one who made the motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner.
Just go with it.
I'll withdraw. I'll withdraw.
Well, then I'll make the motion to
No,
approve.
We have one, Commissioner Parnas. We have one by Commissioner Drosky. I'm assuming that's what's
Yes,
coming.
motion to approve as
Thank
written.
you.
Second.
Okay. We'll count it as a dual second by Commissioner Parnas as well. We have a motion and a second. Let's do roll call.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes,
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Mayor King.
As is on the entire beach?
First reading.
Yes.
Okay, you're now at comments by mayor and city commission.
Okay. Start with, we're gonna start with District 3 since we have Commissioner Parnas on.
okay. I know Debbie Hickson. Her husband was killed at Marjorie Stoneman. He was a teacher and a coach. My comments at the last meeting I attended was not meant to be political. That incident, which 19 people or 20 people were killed with an AR-15, happened 7 miles from here. It could have been Deerfield High. It could have been one of our elementary schools. It could have been a Publix. It could have been a church. The point is, where does it stop? And it's not political. We could argue that reducing the speed limit from 45 to 40 on Hillsborough Boulevard is political. Those who want to move traffic will say you're politicizing the speed limit. Those who want to save lives and accidents will say you're a murderer. We want to lower it. Anything can be said to be political. My interest is in saving children's lives, period. I don't care whether you're a Republican, an independent, a Democrat, a socialist, a communist, a fascist, nothing to do with it. You want to look at history? 1934, sawed-off shotguns were banned. Still on the books. If it was against the Constitution and the Second Amendment, why didn't the Supreme Court throw it out? In 94, we put a 10-year ban on assault weapons. I didn't hear anything from the Supreme Court that we violated the Second Amendment. What the court said, the government has the right to regulate what kind of weapons you may own. If not, I want to put a Black Hawk helicopter on my roof with 50 caliber machine guns to protect my building. It's not political. No, the murder of our children across this country has gotten way, way, way out of hand. In the 10 years when assault weapons were banned, mass shootings went down 40%. Since the ban ended in 2004, it's up 70%. How is that political? It's statistics, truth. We have a problem with automatic weapons. My comment to anybody that says they need an AR-15 to hunt deer is then you need dynamite to go fishing. In Texas, one of the children was so mutilated, they had to use DNA to identify her. Another one was decapitated by an AR-15 in Texas. Is that political? No. No, my heart goes out to the parents. My heart goes out to anybody who loses a child unnecessarily. And every one of those weapons was bought legally, not from the back of a truck, not from a gun show, not from the black market, but from a legitimate gun store within the law. What I'm saying is we have to look at the problem. Is there mental health issues? Yes. Is it the fact that we have more guns in this country than human beings? I would think so. Why is it the murder rate with automatic weapons? We are the only one with such a high rate of mortality compared to England, France, Germany, Australia, any
Commissioner,
other.
Commissioner, look, I'll be honest with you, I think you've made your point.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I am very passionate when you lose somebody you know, and it hurts, and it hurts the family. I was at the first rally after Stoneman Douglas, and the tears and the loss got to my heart, and it's not political. I just don't want to see it happen in Deerfield. Incidentally, for those who don't know, I had a heart issue. It's been resolved by surgery. I'm in a rehab center for the last few days. I apologize for my dress, but they really don't have me walking around in a suit in the rehab center. But I will be home in a few days and back at my normal self. And I will address properly at the next commission meeting and hope to be there in person. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. We look forward to having you back here, and I was hoping you were wearing a robe to commission meetings a normal thing, so I'm disappointed to hear when you change that. I hope next meeting. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Drosky?
Present. The website we talked about earlier, just to repeat it again, for the Oviedo McKeithen 75,000 grant that we're competing for. I'll repeat it if we didn't say it before. It's Niagara, all one word, Niagara Perk, P-E-R-K, yourpark.com. Niagara Perk, yourpark.com. Let's vote for this and get the grant for our city. We're not, these are other parks around the state that we're competing against. So let's bring the money to Deerfield Beach. Again, it's one vote per day per email address. I received an email this week. I don't know if my colleagues received it or not, from Mike Ryan, who is the mayor of Sunrise, bringing up some important issues with respect to voting in Broward County in particular, that the number of precincts and polling locations as a result of redistricting and redrawing has decreased. So before, there were 500, because the supervisor of elections made some significant changes. Before, there were 577 precincts in Broward County. Now there are 345. Before, there were 376 polling locations on election day. Now there are 263. I know before these changes, I would get calls and inquiries from my constituents as to where they needed to vote. Now I can only imagine what the chaos is going to be. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is, one, just to let the public know, because you should have received your new voting card, but it's not like thin little strips. It's like the size of this placard now. It's big. So what I'm requesting is that if the city manager, if you could have staff, please reach out to the supervisor of elections office and get to all of us, all the electeds, in our packets, the polling locations and precincts, as redrawn by the supervisor of elections. I think it would behoove us, for all of us, to know where they are, if they've changed, if they've moved, because I'm sure all of us are going to get inquiries from our residents as it gets closer to election day, which is, the primary is August 23rd. It's coming up quick. So I know I'm going to get questions, and I just would like to have that information, because I don't think I know where all of the new precincts and polling locations are in Deerfield, or if they've even changed. So if we could get that information, that would probably be helpful, because I anticipate questions from the public. And then last but not least is an issue that I just bring to my colleagues' attention. It doesn't need any action tonight, but I may be bringing it up more forceful at the next meeting. But AT&T in the western part of Deerfield Beach in the Starlight Cove neighborhood in particular has been installing fiber optic cable. And in doing so, they've had to use, go on to the residents' driveways and onto their properties to install the underground cable. And it is just complete carnage, in my opinion, out there, what they're creating. They're ripping up yards, they're tearing up sprinkler pipes, they're tearing off sprinkler heads. They're raising driveways. It's basically bedlam out there. There's no street untouched by this. Staff is working with AT&T to come to an amicable resolution on this. I'm planning to meet with AT&T myself when the schedule permits in the next week or so. But if they can be reasonable on this, then maybe I don't ever have to bring this up again. But if they're not, then I'm going to be asking my colleagues to take some action, because it is just really deplorable what's happening to the residents out there. I'm all for upgrading fiber optic cable, but not at the expense of the residents in our city. So to be continued, but I just bring that up as an issue that I'm having and receiving lots of calls out in my district on. So just letting you know. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. District 2.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Perez, we hope you the best as you go through the rehab. So sorry to hear of all that you've gone through. So we hope you the best. You're obviously very passionate about your position in certain things, and you make some good points. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to listen to you, but you make some good points. And thank you for being strong enough to make those points. I'd like to hear from the city manager an update on Community Day. This commission approved a Community Day a while back, and we would have it would be on a rotating basis to all of the districts. And I'd like to get an update on that, when we're going to have that. And I'll tell you, I went to a community picnic at the Waterways in District 4, and that's kind of the format. It was really awesome. I went over there. There was lots of food to eat. There was stuff for the kids. And I looked at that and I said, this is kind of on a smaller scale. Is what I was looking for. It's kind of to get all the districts out together, talking to each other, knowing each other, and just getting to know, becoming one Deerfield, which I don't think that we are right now. But if we get a community day where everybody's coming out and talking, become a better city. So if I can get an update on that, and I'd like to say to my colleague, Commissioner Drosky, I saw, we saw each other over there. It was a beautiful thing. It was a very beautiful, happening. This was very nice. Kids out there having fun, climbing, pythons, and so it was great. It was just a great event. So that was good. That was a District 2 community meeting last night, and it had to do with the Historical Society, a grant that was approved for African American history. That meeting went really well. It was a packed house last night. It was a great turnout. I'd like to thank my colleagues for coming out. Vice Mayor Hudak was there. Commissioner Drosky was there. Thank you guys for coming out. The input from the people was really, really awesome. So we're thankful for that. This coming Saturday, 10 a.m., there's going to be the unveiling of the Harold Morrison Street, 10 a.m., followed by at 11 a.m., a backpack giveaway and block party. Okay. I don't know, but I've heard that the mayor has consented to break dance. I don't know.
If I dance, something's going to break, I can tell you that.
But that's going to be a nice thing for kids and for a family thing. Backpack giveaway, block party. Come on out to that. Last week, the Packer Rattlers had their jamboree. It was very, very nice. There was a lot of people out just to let you know that the teams are almost all filled again. The kids are coming out. You remember the first year? Yeah, guess what? Excuse me? Yeah, it's almost all filled again. There are a lot of kids are coming out, a lot of kids that were in Pompano and other areas. As far as Lauderdale Lakes, parents were driving their kids. They're coming back. They're coming back to Deerfield. And so I would like to invite all of Deerfield to come out and, you know, if you go over there on a weekday, it's very difficult to find a parking split. You know, yeah. And we actually have 2 or 3 teams that might just do that. So, I'd like to thank staff, specifically Priscilla Sajulnik and our assistant city manager, Horace McHugh. There were some issues and some things that was going on in my district, and I asked their attention to it, and there was promptness to it, and those issues were resolved. So I would like to thank city staff, all of those that were involved. It was more involved than just those 2, but they are the people that kind of headed up those things. So thank you to you guys. I really appreciate that. But thank your staff as well. And so that's greatly appreciated. So thank you. And we talked about, there was a gentleman that talked about the work to be done on Station 66. I worked in Station 66. Okay, a lot of my career was at Station 66. And there was problems actually back then. The stations are old. And as you remember, I asked a while back that we look at something big, very big, like a central city complex type thing. Because we know the problems that we're having with Station 4. And it's time for us to look for a bond. It's time for us to get serious and put something down so we can really upgrade our department. Let me tell you, if you go out through the county, you're going to hear Broward County and their fire rescue celebrated. But I challenge my colleagues now to look at a lot of the people who were promoted in the Broward County system. You know, those people came from Deerfield Beach. They have just done an excellent job. It's time that we do something for our residents, for our firefighters, is to create a central city type campus, you know, where we're addressing these issues. And if we have to do that by grant, do it. But whatever we need to do, we need to begin to look seriously at doing that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, kudos to the meeting yesterday. It was a great event, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. And it was a way to have the city and the community come together for a common good. So I'm really glad that we were able to put that on. So great job. Quick question for Priscilla while she's still here. For the water meters, will they also be included in the former unincorporated Broward County that's now Deerfield Beach, even though they get water from the city of Pompano still?
Broward County service area.
Yes.
So the Broward County service area is serviced by Broward County. They're on a separate.
Right, so they will not be getting the new water meters.
They will not.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to find out about that. So next week we'll be having the city manager evaluation. Last year at this time, there were some concerns about the form we were using, and we were all asked to speak with the city attorney in order to go ahead and evaluate the form and look for some changes. I don't know if any of you had the time to do that, or opportunity, I should say, to do that. But I did take the liberty of creating a new form that I'd like the commission to look at and maybe make some recommendations on. It's a lot simpler form, but I still feel that it has the same end goal in mind, which is a fair evaluation on our city manager and the job that he is doing. So I'll go ahead and put the form up here. I'm not going to go through the form. I'll go ahead and have city staff go ahead and email it out to you so that you can at least look at it and see if this is something that you're interested in. If not, I please ask that you get with the city attorney. Either come up with your own form or look at this form compared to the old form and make whatever changes you like. But I think it's important that we provide good feedback to our city manager to make sure that the city is moving in the direction that this dais wants. So I would appreciate that. We will be having a District 1 meeting on August 25th, right here in City Hall, it'll be at 7 o'clock. The agenda is forthcoming, so I hope that we have a lot of District 1 residents in attendance. This one will be focused just on District 1 and some of the challenges that we're facing, and any challenges that you want to bring to myself or city staff that we're not aware of or that we're not addressing. And also, August 11th to 13th, Commissioner Drosky and I will be going to the Florida League of City event. It will actually be down in Hollywood this year. And again, these are things that we do to make sure that we are not only promoting the city of Deerfield Beach, but also bringing forth any challenges the city has to other elected officials. Part of this job is just not listening to the residents, but it's also making sure that the county commission is involved, that the state legislature is involved, to make sure that this city is promoted and that our needs are being met by those who have the ability to make those decisions. So once again, Commissioner Drosky and I will be heading on over there to make sure that, you know, our challenges are being heard so that they can be addressed properly. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Last meeting, we talked about Jim Lusk passing away. And one of the things that people may not realize is a lot of the success of our Pioneers Day was due to Jim. Jim was a huge advocate for it. Whenever you saw Darth Vader or stormtroopers do that, was usually paid out of Jim's pocket. To honor Jim, you know, people talk about naming streets and things like that, but I think something that is respectful for the contributions that Jim made to the city and are in line with what he contributed. I would like us to name the best float in our Pioneer Day Parade, the Jim Lusk Award. So just something we could think about. Jim did a lot for that. So you okay with it? Let's do it. Okay. So
Do we need to make a motion or?
is that something for staff to?
A motion, excuse me, sorry about that. A motion would be helpful for direction.
Okay. Sure, you want to make a motion? I'll let you go.
I'd like to make a motion that we name a float in the memory of Mr. Lusk for his services.
That would be the best float in the parade.
Yes.
I'd second that.
Motion, second. Anyone from the public care to comment on this item? Go ahead and close it to the public. Commissioner Drosky, do you want to say something?
I'm in favor of it. My only hesitation is I just don't like doing things on the fly without, you know, the public notification, the public being here. If it's something that needs to be passed tonight, I'm okay. If it's something that you want to put on the next agenda, so anyone that wants to comment or is aware of it, we can. That would be my only hesitation.
Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second. I'm gonna go ahead and do roll call. And if it, you know, unless you guys want to withdraw it.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes?
Commissioner Fornes,
Okay.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Mayor Dean.
Yes, thank you very much for that. I think it's nice honor from Jim for everything he's done for the city. And I just want to remind everybody, sharing of opinion is one thing. Doesn't mean it's a debate. We're not debating these issues. People sharing their opinions, which everyone's entitled to do. I'm going to encourage my colleagues to try to keep us within the navigational buoys of things we can control, but I'm certainly not going to limit from sharing their opinion on certain matters. Okay. Other than that, I think that's all that I have. I will say, I want to thank our assistant city manager, Horace, for doing a great job while Mr. Santucci was out of town. So thank you. Excellent job. Excellent job. Good job, Dave. Thank you. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Eric Power to the front, Eric Power to the front.
Yeah.